Hearing this, Sarah's face turned even paler. It was true. She and Ethan were divorced now, and Jessica had already registered her marriage with Ethan. They were the legally protected couple. She was just Ethan's ex-wife. In that instant, Sarah was overwhelmed with regret. Thinking back to the moment she had practically pushed Ethan and Jessica into City Hall to get their marriage certificate, she wanted to slap herself senseless. Back then, she had been almost smug about divorcing Ethan. But now, she regretted it bitterly, kicking herself relentlessly. Jessica, you shrew. You actually schemed against me. I'll kill you. The more Sarah thought about it, the deeper her regret and anger became. Seeing Jessica clinging to Ethan's arm, refusing to let go, she couldn't control her fiery temper any longer. She lunged forward like a wild animal, wanting nothing more than to tear Jessica, the homewrecker, limb from limb. However, the next moment, Ethan stepped forward, shielding Jessica. He thrust out a hand and shoved Sarah hard. Sarah stumbled and fell to the ground. Looking up, she saw Ethan towering over her, his eyes filled with nothing but endless coldness. Sarah, Jessica is my wife now. If you try to lay a hand on her, don't blame me for what happens next. Ethan warned, his voice chillingly icy. His words struck Sarah like a physical blow, her already pale face becoming a mask of despair. Ethan, the husband who had once loved her most, who had cherished her, spoiled her rotten, wanting to give her the very best of everything. But now, he stood protectively in front of another woman, hurling cruel words at her. Why? She was Ethan's wife. Jessica wasn't. She was just the other woman. The thought sent a wave of profound injustice crashing over Sarah. Unable to hold back any longer, she burst into tears, feeling utterly wronged. Stop. Ethan, how could you do this to me? I'm your wife. I am. Jessica wrecked our marriage, and you're attacking me for her sake? Stop. Sarah cried heartbrokenly, tears streaming down her face uncontrollably. Olivia quickly knelt beside her, helping Sarah up before glaring at Ethan. Ethan, how could you be so cruel? Sarah is pregnant with your child, yet you treat her like this for Jessica. Facing their accusations, Ethan's patience wore thin. He couldn't be bothered wasting any more words on them. Turning, he took Jessica's small hand gently. Let's go back inside. Don't get tangled up arguing with him here. Okay. Jessica spared the two women, looking like Lost Valley girls, a glance before turning and walking back into the manor with Ethan. Ethan, Jessica, don't you dare walk away. Seeing them leave just like that, Olivia couldn't stand it, yelling indignantly after their retreating figures. Watching Jessica's back as Ethan led her away, Sarah was filled with grief, indignation, and a burning sense of unwillingness to accept defeat. Jessica, I won't give up. Ethan is my husband. He's mine. I'll get him back sooner or later. Sarah screamed after them, her voice raw with emotion. Ethan was her husband first. It was all Jessica's scheming. If it weren't for Jessica, she would still have a happy, blissful marriage. Let her accept this fate? Never. Sarah swore silently to herself. She would get her husband back. She absolutely would. Just as her words faded, several security personnel in suits emerged from the manor, striding quickly towards the gate. What's all the shouting? Where did these crazy women come from, causing trouble here? Get lost. If you don't leave now, don't blame us for getting rough. The security personnel advanced menacingly, immediately trying to chase them off. The two women, moments ago bristling with anger, suddenly felt intimidated, their aggressive stance faltering. And just like that, the two Valley girls were driven away. After leaving dejectedly, the two women drove back downtown together. Once parked, Sarah didn't get out of the car. She sat in the driver's seat, staring blankly ahead, her expression miserable, lost in thought. Sarah, what's wrong? Olivia noticed her friend's strange state and asked with concern. Sarah turned to look at her, her voice heavy with despair. Olivia, I was wrong. I was so wrong. I regret it so much now. Olivia sighed softly, trying to comfort her. Sarah, don't be like this. It's not your fault. It's all Jessica's fault. Olivia, I really messed up. I shouldn't have gotten divorced. I shouldn't have lent Ethan to Jessica. I regret it so much now. Sarah was completely consumed by remorse. Before, she had clung to the foolish hope that a socialite like Jessica was only with Ethan for the novelty. That once the excitement wore off, Jessica would dump him, and then she and Ethan could remarry. But after seeing Jessica today, she realized how wrong she was. Jessica had been in love with Ethan for 17 years. She had waited for him for 17 years. Now that she finally had him, there was no way Jessica would ever give him back. Every time she thought about it, regret gnawed at her, She had personally pushed the man who loved her most into the arms of another woman. Now, even the thought of trying to win Ethan back felt hopeless. A profound sense of powerlessness washed over her. Sigh. We were both wrong, Olivia admitted. I thought Jessica was just playing around with Ethan. I never imagined. Jessica hit it too well, loving him for 17 years. Now, no matter what anyone says, she definitely won't let Ethan go. Even Olivia could see that Sarah's chances of getting Ethan back were slim to none. This was Jessica, after all. What did Sarah have to compete with her? Ethan wasn't stupid. In this situation, he would obviously choose to stay with the socialite. Jessica. Hearing Olivia's words, Sarah pressed her lips together, a surge of defiance rising in her heart. Even so, Jessica can't forget about me giving up. She schemed against me like this, and she expects me to just accept my fate? Dream on. At that moment, Sarah's heart was filled with hatred for Jessica, her gaze slowly hardening with resolve. She had treated Jessica like a BFF, kindly lending her husband. Jessica had readily promised back then that she wouldn't do anything to betray her trust. But now, Jessica had gone back on her word, breaking her promise without shame, stealing her husband and refusing to give him back. How could she possibly accept that? She used to have a husband who only had eyes for her, a beautiful, happy marriage. Now, she had nothing. It was all Jessica's fault. Jessica caused all of this. Olivia glanced at her, her expression tinged with helplessness. Sarah, what are you planning to do now? Sarah snorted coldly. In another 2 weeks, the 2-month deadline we agreed on will be up. That's true, Jessica, and I agreed. 2 months, and she gives my husband back. When the time comes, I'll demand my husband back. If she refuses, I'll expose this whole thing on social media. If she won't let me live peacefully, I won't let her have an easy time either. Worst case scenario, we take each other down. Nobody gets a happy ending. Hearing this desperate, almost crazed idea, Olivia couldn't help but flinch. If Sarah really did that, she had a bad feeling that Sarah, Jessica, and Ethan would all be dragged into a social media firestorm. All three would likely face cyberbullying. No one would escape unscathed. It was a plan bent on mutual destruction. Utterly insane. But, for Sarah, perhaps there was no other path left. Finally got rid of them. Those 2 women are so persistent, always trying to steal my husband. Inside the manor, Jessica sat on the sofa, pouting slightly, looking troubled. She had finally gotten together with Ethan after so much effort, only for Sarah to constantly have her eyes on him, scheming day and night about how to steal him back. It made it hard for her to relax. Ethan, having just changed and come downstairs, couldn't help but chuckle when he heard her. What's wrong? Afraid someone will snatch me away. He walked over and sat down slowly beside her. Jessica immediately snuggled closer, wrapping her arms around one of his, resting her head on his shoulder, half leaning against him. Of course, it took me so long to finally have you. If Sarah steals you back, how could I possibly go on? She hugged him tightly, as if terrified he'd be snatched away the very next second. Ethan was already accustomed to the inescapable softness pressing against him. Seeing Jessica acting like she couldn't live without him, he smiled resignedly. So, what would you do if I really did get stolen away? I won't let anyone steal you. I'm keeping you by my side forever. I mean, if I were stolen, what would you do then? There are no ifs. Jessica's tone was incredibly firm, her expression serious. She had waited 17 years for Ethan. Now that her dream had finally come true and they were together, she couldn't bear the thought of someone else taking him. She couldn't imagine how she would survive alone in a future without Ethan. So, she would absolutely not let anyone take Ethan from her side. Absolutely not. Ethan was hers. For this lifetime. Ethan had only meant to tease her, but seeing her so serious, he couldn't help but feel touched. So, this was what it felt like to be chosen so decisively. He saw in Jessica's expression of devotion that meant it had to be him and no one else. It seemed she would never even look at another man for the rest of her life. Besides him, Jessica would never fall for anyone else. For this lifetime, she had decided it was him. Honestly, this was the first time Ethan had ever felt this way. Although he had been with Sarah for 7 years, he had never felt this from her. When he was with Sarah, he had always been the one feeling inadequate. Sarah, banking on Ethan's affection, had always been brazenly confident, seemingly certain Ethan would never leave her. That's why she had always bossed Ethan around and interacted with him from a superior position. It seemed she felt that for a beautiful woman like her to be with a man with no prospects like Ethan, he should be eternally grateful and naturally treat her well. Thinking about this, Ethan suddenly felt incredibly lucky to have met Jessica. Did I save the galaxy in my past life to deserve such a wonderful girl? A warmth spread through Ethan's heart. He reached out, wrapping his arms around her soft body, and said gently, "Don't worry. I'm yours for life. No one can steal me away. Promise?" A small smile touched Jessica's lips, her expression brightening. "Absolutely promise." Ethan nodded firmly. "That's more like it." Jessica finally seemed content, nuzzling her head against his shoulder. Her unease gradually subsided, replaced by a sense of security. They sat there like that, cuddled together on the sofa, faint, happy smiles on both their faces. After a moment, a security guard in a sharp suit walked in, reporting respectfully, "Miss, sir, the two women at the gate have been sent away." "Understood. You may leave." Jessica didn't even lift her head, remaining nestled in Ethan's arms as she spoke nonchalantly. "Yes, miss." The male security guard nodded and turned to leave. "Wait a moment," Ethan called out. The security guard turned back, asking respectfully, "Sir, is there anything else?" Ethan said, "Next time you see those two women come to the manor, just turn them away immediately." The security guard hesitated for a second, then nodded. "Yes, sir." He then turned and left. Hearing Ethan say to just turn Sarah away next time she came, a faint smile touched Jessica's lips, her eyes sparkling with pleasure. Ethan being so firm with Sarah reassured her greatly. Later that night, deep into the evening, in a spacious, luxurious bedroom, Jessica, fresh from shower, lay on the bed, video chatting with Laura Miller on WhatsApp. Thinking about those troublesome women, Sarah and Olivia, gave Jessica a headache. So she told Laura about how those two women had come looking for Ethan today, wanting to get back together. After listening, Laura frowned. "Jessica, I have a feeling that Sarah definitely won't give up on Ethan. She'll definitely come looking for him again." Jessica nodded, looking troubled. Sarah said today she wouldn't give up. She's so annoying, always trying to steal my husband." Although Ethan had clearly promised her he wouldn't get back together with Sarah, Sarah's constant harassment was still a headache for Jessica. Laura warned, "Jessica, you need to be careful. Sarah's pregnant, remember? While I believe Ethan won't betray you, I'm worried he might eventually cave if Sarah keeps wearing him down with persistent pleading." "What if?" She didn't finish, but the implication was clear. Hearing this, Jessica instantly felt a sense of crisis. "Laura, what should I do then?" Laura puffed out her cheeks slightly. "Jessica, Sarah isn't giving up now mainly because she's relying on the baby in her belly. If you want to secure Ethan's heart, you could have his baby too. Don't forget, you're a woman too. Once you're pregnant with Ethan's child, no matter what trick Sarah tries, they'll be useless." Jessica's eyes lit up. That's right. If she also had Ethan's baby, whatever Sarah did would be pointless. Then, she'd not only have a marriage certificate with Ethan, but also a child. No matter how unwilling Sarah was, she couldn't change anything. Thinking this, a smile immediately spread across Jessica's face. Right now, she wished she could get pregnant with Ethan's child immediately. "Laura, you're right. I need to have Ethan's baby." Laura laughed. "Well, good luck with that." "Okay, gotta go. My Daniel's ready for some baby making too." Laura quickly hung up. Jessica hugged her phone, her mind racing, plotting how to get pregnant with Ethan's child as soon as possible. Just then, Ethan opened the bedroom door and walked in. "You're still awake?" Ethan Thompson looked at Jessica Smith sitting up in bed, a little surprised. It was almost 11 p.m. He thought she'd already be asleep. He didn't expect this girl to still be scrolling through social media. Jessica Smith put down her phone and gave Ethan Thompson a sweet smile. "Waiting for you. You go ahead and sleep first." "I'll sleep after my shower," Ethan Thompson said with a smile, turning towards the bathroom. "Wait." Jessica Smith stopped him. Ethan Thompson turned back, looking puzzled. "What's wrong?" Jessica Smith threw back the covers, got out of bed, and stood beside it. Avoiding his gaze slightly, she said shyly, "I want to shower with you." Her cheeks flushed faintly, her expression a mix of shyness and anticipation. Ethan Thompson froze for a second. They'd already done everything else couples do, but showering together? This was a first. He looked at her pajamas, puzzled. "Didn't you already shower?" Caught out, Jessica Smith pressed her lips together, her face turning even redder. But she summoned her courage, looked up, and pouted slightly. "I don't care. I just want to shower with you." Ethan Thompson's gaze drifted down, taking in the enticing curves hidden beneath her pajamas. Images of them showering together flooded his mind, and he felt himself losing control. "No." Ethan Thompson shook his head, refusing. He was sweaty and just wanted a proper shower. How could he concentrate on washing with Jessica Smith there? "I don't care, I'm coming." Jessica Smith huffed softly and walked right over to him. Seeing her stubborn look, Ethan Thompson felt rather helpless. He thought for a moment and relented. All right, fine, but we're just showering. No funny business. Hee hee, okay, I know, Jessica Smith beamed, her bright, clear eyes instantly sparkling. Ethan Thompson didn't pay her any more mind and turned into the bathroom. Jessica Smith skipped lightly behind him, following him inside. Honestly, Ethan Thompson had just wanted a good shower. He was pretty sweaty. But with Jessica Smith right there beside him, and both of them naked, a young, virile man like Ethan Thompson couldn't possibly resist. No matter how firm his words were, another part of him was even firmer. And then, sounds not meant for innocent ears began to echo from the bathroom. In the end, when Ethan Thompson carried Jessica Smith out, the bathroom sink had collapsed, and the mirror that had been hanging on the wall lay shattered on the floor. By this point, Jessica Smith was completely spent, limp in Ethan Thompson's arms, glistening with sweat, her face flushed, and her eyes filled with deep satisfaction. Soon, after their intense battle, both fell into a deep sleep. The next day, morning arrived. The sun shone brightly, the air fresh and clear. To Ethan Thompson, it seemed like another perfect morning for some exercise. And then, just after waking up, he was dragged into some morning exercise by Jessica Smith. Jessica Smith exercised him for half an hour, leaving Ethan Thompson's legs so weak he could barely stand, let alone go for a morning run. Around noon, Jessica Smith, blushing, asked two housekeepers to clean up the battlefield in the bathroom, clearing away the collapsed sink and shattered mirror. Actually, the sink just collapsed on its own. Nobody was sitting on it or anything. Don't get the wrong idea, Jessica Smith explained casually, standing at the bathroom door while watching the two housekeepers clean. The two housekeepers exchanged glances, looking bewildered. They hadn't asked anything. Why was Miss explaining this to them? By the afternoon, a new sink and mirror were installed in the bathroom. This time, Jessica Smith had someone specifically by the sink, giving two requirements. First, the quality had to be top-notch. Price wasn't important. Second, it should preferably be wooden, so it wouldn't be cold on her backside. Looking at the newly installed sink, Jessica Smith was very satisfied. She pressed down on it, confident in its quality. Most importantly, it wouldn't be cold on her, but she was eager to get pregnant with Ethan Thompson's child soon, so this sink might see some action again in the near future. After all, Ethan Thompson sometimes preferred not to be in bed. Later, during their steak dinner, Ethan Thompson noticed several new herbal supplements on the table, including 2 soups specifically meant to boost vitality. Watching Jessica Smith eagerly ladle soup for him, question marks practically popped up over Ethan Thompson's head. This girl, she's gotten addicted, hasn't she? He really wanted to say that he was perfectly healthy. He hit the fitness center daily and didn't need any supplements. But seeing the two housekeepers standing nearby, he kept quiet and drank the soup silently. After dinner, the sun hadn't set yet. Ethan Thompson was about to go for a walk to aid digestion when Jessica Smith approached him. It's getting late, hubby. Time for bed, Jessica Smith said with a grin, linking her arm through his and fluttering her big, bright eyes. Ethan Thompson paused, glanced at the still visible sun outside, then back at Jessica Smith's charming smile. He pondered for a moment before asking, "When you say bed, do you mean the same thing I mean by bed?" Jessica Smith's face flushed slightly, but she nodded with mock seriousness. "Of course. I can't sleep without you." And with that, Ethan Thompson was pulled upstairs. The two housekeepers, standing nearby, watched the couple head upstairs, exchanged glances, and couldn't help but chuckle. They understood now how the bathroom sink had collapsed. After all, Miss had specifically asked them to prepare those medicinal dishes today, and she'd instructed them to continue preparing them for the next few days, since Sir was overworked from the fitness center recently and needed to recuperate. As for whether Sir's fatigue was due to the fitness center or other reasons, only Miss truly knew. And so, for the next few days, Ethan Thompson drank herbal supplements daily and was dragged upstairs to bed before dark each evening. People always say early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy. Why did he feel like going to bed early was making him weaker instead? He did notice, however, that the newly installed sink was indeed high quality, unlike the previous one that collapsed after just a few bumps. But perhaps he celebrated too soon. One day, the bed collapsed. Since it was nighttime, the young couple felt too embarrassed to call anyone to replace it. So they made a pallet on the floor, cuddled together, and fell fast asleep. There were plenty of other rooms in the manor, of course, but after their exertion, neither felt like moving. Making do on the floor seemed easiest. The next day, when a few male security personnel came to the room and saw the dismantled bed frame, they were utterly dumbfounded. Later, when they encountered Ethan Thompson, Their gazes towards their boss were filled with sheer admiration. First the sink, now the bed. Sir's combat prowess was clearly impressive. This time, Jessica Smith had someone buy another large bed. She had only one requirement. Price didn't matter, but the quality had to be absolutely solid. After all, Ethan Thompson was truly vigorous. Meanwhile, Ethan Thompson was drinking medicinal soups every day, almost to the point of throwing up. He wanted to refuse, but feeling the faint ache in his lower back, he silently downed it all. He realized Jessica Smith's demands had become too great lately. Without drinking these supplements, he really couldn't keep up. Of course, Jessica Smith's reasons for wearing Ethan Thompson out were twofold. 1, she genuinely wanted to have his baby, and 2, she also thoroughly enjoyed the process of baby making. She'd never really dated before and hadn't known how wonderful intimacy could be. Now, she found herself rather addicted. It was a clear night, the moon bright against the sparsely starred sky. Inside the room, under the warm yellow lamplight, the two lay tangled together on the large bed, utterly spent. After an intense session, they had fought each other to a standstill. Now, both were exhausted, drenched in sweat, and panting heavily. "Honey, I want to take a shower," Jessica Smith murmured, nestled against his chest, her soft voice thick with fatigue. "Then go," Ethan Thompson replied weakly, staring up at the ceiling. Jessica Smith lifted her head from his chest, her limpid eyes gazing up at him as she whined playfully. "I don't have any energy left. Carry me." Ethan Thompson glanced at her, sweaty, flushed, an absolute vision. Desire stirred within him again, threatening his control. "No way, go yourself. I'm beat too." He really was exhausted, and Jessica Smith was far too tempting right now. He feared he wouldn't be able to hold back again. He'd overexerted himself recently and needed some restraint. "No, carry me, please." "Pretty please, honey," Jessica Smith pouted, her voice dripping with coquettish charm. All right, I can never say no to you." Helpless against his wife's pleading, Ethan Thompson resigned himself and agreed. However, just as he was about to get up and carry Jessica Smith to the bathroom, the iPhone resting on the bedside table suddenly rang. Ethan Thompson picked it up and saw it was his sister, Jenna Thompson. He glanced at Jessica Smith before answering. Jessica Smith also saw the caller ID, something like Lil Sis, and perked up immediately, leaning closer. "Hey bro, you there?" Jenna Thompson's cheerful voice came through the phone. "Yeah, I'm here. What's up?" Ethan Thompson asked. "Bro, why do you sound so tired? What are you doing?" Jenna Thompson sensed something was off. Her brother's voice sounded weak, almost like he'd spent the day doing hard labor. Ethan Thompson panicked slightly, quickly clearing his throat and replying in a serious tone. "Nothing. I was just sleeping." "Oh, really?" Jenna Thompson nodded, not dwelling on it. "Anyway, bro, it's my father's birthday in a couple of days. I want to get him a red velvet cake and celebrate. Are you busy? If not, you should come back so we can celebrate my father's birthday together." Hearing this, Ethan Thompson paused. He suddenly remembered. It really was his father's birthday soon. A pang of guilt hit him. His old folks had worked hard in the countryside their whole lives and never really had a proper birthday celebration. "Okay." Ethan Thompson nodded immediately. "I'll come back." Jenna Thompson's face lit up. "Really? That's great. Today, during our steak dinner, my father and mom were actually talking about finding you a girlfriend again." "A girlfriend?" Ethan Thompson was stunned, momentarily dumbfounded. Nestled against him, Jessica Smith also gave a start, lifting her head with a newly serious expression. Ethan Thompson glanced at her, then asked Jenna Thompson, "What girlfriend?" Jenna Thompson explained, "Well, you divorced Sarah Thompson, right? So my father and mom were saying, you're approaching 30, not getting any younger, so you should find someone sooner rather than later." They even asked around. "There's Margaret from next door in Willow Creek Village, the divorced one with 2 kids. You met her last time you were home." "Oh." And mom also asked about the Wilson residence's eldest daughter, Kloe Wilson, the one you had a crush on when we were kids. She's still single. The Wilson residence even told mom that when you come back, they should set you two up on a blind date. If you hit it off, you should get married quickly. Hearing this, Jessica Smith, who had been eavesdropping, slowly narrowed her eyes, her lips forming a pout, her face clearly unhappy. Ethan Thompson instantly felt a murderous glare lock onto him. He looked at Jessica Smith beside him, her expression full of displeasure. He managed an awkward smile, feeling distinctly uncomfortable like pins and needles on his back. Over the phone, Jenna Thompson continued chattering away. "Bro, Kloe Wilson even asked me the other day when you were coming back." Ethan Thompson was surprised to hear that. Jessica Smith, meanwhile, frowned, puffing her cheeks in annoyance. Unable to resist, she reached out and pinched the soft flesh at Ethan Thompson's waist to vent her frustration. Wincing slightly, Ethan Thompson patted Jessica Smith's shoulder soothingly while asking Jenna Thompson, "Kloe Wilson asked about me?" He was genuinely surprised. He certainly remembered Kloe Wilson, the Wilson residence's daughter, his childhood crush. He just hadn't expected her to actively ask about him. Yeah, apparently, she dated a real jerk who broke her heart badly, and she's been single ever since. She's probably getting older now and thinking about settling down too, Jenna Thompson urged. Bro, I think Kloe Wilson would be a really good match for you. I think she'd make a great sister-in-law. You should really make a good impression. Maybe you two could actually end up together. Before Jenna Thompson could finish, Ethan Thompson felt a small hand clamp down on his waist again. A sharp pain shot through him. He sucked in a breath, looking at Jessica Smith's thoroughly unhappy face. He quickly cut in, "Jenna Thompson, tell Mom to stop worrying about me needlessly. I already have a girlfriend." He was afraid his waist would be black and blue if he didn't speak up now. At his words, Jessica Smith's expression softened slightly, and she released her grip. However, she was still pouting, clearly not entirely appeased. "What? Bro, you have a girlfriend?" Jenna Thompson was stunned. She couldn't believe it. Just 2 weeks after divorcing Sarah Thompson, her brother already had a girlfriend. She had actually been quite worried about him finding someone. After all, Ethan Thompson was approaching 30, wasn't particularly handsome, had no money, and no house. With those conditions, finding a partner would be really tough. Yet, somehow, Ethan Thompson had already found someone. How could she not be excited? "Yes, I have a girlfriend," Ethan Thompson confirmed with a nod. "I'll tell you all about it properly when I come back in a couple of days." "So, bro, will your girlfriend come back with you?" Jenna Thompson asked impatiently. Ethan Thompson looked at Jessica Smith. She nodded, giving him a fierce look that clearly said, "You're dead if you don't bring me home." Ethan Thompson felt a wave of helplessness. He told Jenna Thompson, "Yes, she will. I'll bring her home then, and we'll celebrate my father's birthday together." "That's wonderful. I'll tell Mom and Dad the good news right away." "Okay, sounds good. Talk to you later then. I'm hanging up now." After hanging up, Ethan looked at Jessica. He saw Jessica pouting, her tone dripping with jealousy as she asked, "Who's Kloe Wilson?" Ahem. Ethan cleared his throat twice. Seeing her jealous pout, he felt a mix of fondness and exasperation, patiently explaining, "She's just a girl from our village, Willow Creek. About my age, I guess." "Oomph. Your sister mentioned you used to like her when you were kids." Jessica wasn't letting him off the hook, huffing lightly before pressing further. That was just kid stuff, ages ago. I'd almost forgotten." Ethan scratched his head, looking a bit awkward. "Really? You've forgotten her? But she's asking your sister about you? Even asking when you're going back? Sounds to me like she's dying to be set up with you." Jessica's face was etched with unhappiness. "Set up? Why would I need setting up? I'm a married man now," Ethan said seriously. Seeing she was still upset, he reached out, pulled her soft body into his arms, and started coaxing her in a soft, gentle voice. "Besides, that Kloe Wilson isn't nearly as beautiful as you. How could I possibly like her?" Hearing this, Jessica finally relented a little, though she still pouted, looking playfully petulant. That's more like it." Ethan chuckled resignedly, ruffling her hair. "This valley girl looks pretty cute when she's jealous," he thought. "Right, we're going to my parental home in a couple of days. Are you sure you want to go?" Ethan asked, a hint of worry in his voice. This would be Jessica's first time visiting his family, and as his wife, well, technically daughter-in-law. To be honest, Ethan wasn't quite ready for it himself. He hadn't expected to be taking Jessica to his parental home to meet his parents so soon. The mention of visiting his home made Jessica nervous too. After all, these were Ethan's parents, her parents-in-law, showing up as their daughter-in-law. She had no idea if the old folks would approve of her. Thinking about it made her feel quite apprehensive. "Ethan, do you think your parents will like me?" Jessica looked up, her large, limpid eyes gazing at him, tinged with nervousness. "Of course they will. You're so beautiful. How could they not like you?" Ethan felt that familiar fondness and exasperation, ruffling her hair again as he patiently reassured her. "But what if they don't like me?" Jessica let him muss her hair, asking with complete seriousness. She'd never really dated before, so she felt completely out of her depth with this sort of thing. She was terrified she wouldn't measure up, that Ethan's parents wouldn't like her. That would be awful. Seeing her looking so worried, Ethan couldn't help but find it a little amusing. "You're Jessica. You're a genuine socialite. Have a little confidence, okay?" Seeing she still lacked confidence, Ethan continued soothingly. "My mom and dad are just ordinary folks. They don't have high expectations for a daughter-in-law. Didn't you hear my sister? My mom's apparently even considering setting me up with divorced women with 2 kids now. Look at you. You're gorgeous, wealthy, mature, sensible, understanding, gentle, and poised. Who wouldn't love a daughter-in-law like you? Really?" Hearing Ethan say that, Jessica blinked her big eyes. The nervousness in them gradually faded, replaced by a flicker of returning confidence. "Of course, when you come to my parental home, you don't need to try too hard or do anything special. Just be yourself. My parents will love you for who you are." Ethan chuckled softly, holding her close and speaking gently. "Okay, I understand." Jessica nodded, resting against his chest, her heart gradually calming. "All right, it's getting late. We should sleep." Ethan glanced at the time. It was past midnight. Usually, they'd be asleep long before now. Okay." Then, Ethan turned off the lights, plunging the room into darkness. Before long, he was asleep. Jessica, however, couldn't sleep. Her bright eyes shone like stars in the darkness, her gaze thoughtful. She was still thinking about going to Ethan's parental home. This felt like a momentous event tied to the rest of her life. Even though Ethan had said she didn't need to do anything special, that just being herself was enough, Jessica still felt she needed to prepare. First, Ethan's parents were ordinary folks. They'd surely appreciate a diligent daughter-in-law. As a top-tier socialite, Jessica had been waited on hand and foot her whole life. She barely knew how to do anything domestic. Realizing this, Jessica decided she should probably learn some basic housekeeping skills beforehand. Also, for her first visit, she definitely needed to bring gifts for Ethan's family, and other presents too were essential. She couldn't possibly arrive empty-handed. With that in mind, Jessica decided she would put some real thought into picking out presents for Ethan's family downtown tomorrow. And another thing, in the countryside, she absolutely couldn't act spoiled or delicate. She needed to curb her pampered young miss tendencies and not just order people around like she did at home. And Jessica thought about many things that night. She felt a mixture of anticipation and nervous apprehension about visiting Ethan's parental home with him. So the next day, after breakfast, Ethan saw Jessica, the pampered young lady herself, actually starting to clear the dishes. This shocked the 2 housekeepers, who quickly rushed forward to stop their young miss. "Miss, please rest. We can handle this." The 2 housekeepers flusteredly tried to block Jessica, utterly overwhelmed by this unexpected gesture. Jessica had never done chores like this in her entire life. But today their miss was actually trying to help them work. "No, don't stop me. Neither of you are allowed to take this from me. You 2 go rest. I'll do these chores." Jessica refused. Seeing the housekeepers scrambling with the dishes, she got slightly exasperated and quickly pushed them aside. The housekeepers fidgeted uncomfortably. Faced with such uncharacteristic behavior from their miss, they could only turn pleading eyes towards Ethan. Ethan was stunned too. Jessica was actually volunteering to do housework. Was this the same Jessica he knew? Had she been replaced by an imposter? Ethan stood up, took hold of Jessica's arm, and asked bewilderedly, "What's gotten into you today?" Jessica turned to him, pouting again. "I need to learn how to do housework. Otherwise, when we get to your parental home, I won't know how to do anything, and your parents will definitely look down on me." Ethan hadn't expected this motivation. Seeing her earnest expression, he felt genuinely touched. Jessica was willing to do things like this. For him. "You really don't need to do all this, you know? My parents will love you regardless," Ethan said gently, sighing with a hint of helplessness. "No, I want to learn," Jessica insisted, her expression completely serious. She pulled her hand away and went back to her chores. Okay. You just relax. Don't distract me while I'm working," Jessica said, starting to clear the plates and cutlery from the table. Watching her bustle about, Ethan felt a warmth spread through his chest. Nearby, the 2 housekeepers overheard the exchange and slowly put 2 and 2 together. So their miss was going with Mr. Ethan back to Willow Creek Village. That explained why she was learning household chores, to impress her future in-laws. At this thought, the 2 housekeepers exchanged a wry smile. Their miss truly adored Mr. Ethan, willing to trade her socialite lifestyle just to do these things for him. Jessica quickly finished clearing the table. The 2 housekeepers then led her to the kitchen where, at Jessica's insistence, they stood aside. Neither dared to step in and help, simply watching as their miss sat on the floor, scrubbing the dishes with determined grunts and puffs. Finally, after putting in considerable effort, Jessica managed to wash all the bowls and plates. Naturally, being her first time doing such chores, she inevitably broke a few dishes in the process. After finishing her chores, Jessica went out alone. When she returned later that afternoon, her suitcase was packed full of gifts. Ethan had spent the morning at the fitness center and had no idea Jessica had left. He was taken aback when he saw her return, suitcase obviously full. Jessica looked exhausted, sweat beading on her forehead, yet her expression was one of pure satisfaction. Seeing this, Ethan didn't say a word. He simply stepped forward and gathered her into his embrace. Jessica snuggled into his arms, looking utterly content. That evening, Jessica once again insisted on doing the housekeeper's chores, washing all the dinner plates, and even cleaning the kitchen afterward. It was 8 o'clock by the time Jessica finished everything and went upstairs. She collapsed onto the bed, utterly spent. She felt like she'd done more physical labor today than in her entire life combined. "Ethan, I want a bath," Jessica murmured weakly from where she lay sprawled on the bed, her voice tinged with a playful plea. Ethan knew how exhausted she was. He walked over and swept her up in his arms, bridal style. "All right, I'll carry you," Ethan murmured gently. You're the best, Ethan," Jessica giggled, wrapping her arms around his neck. A smile graced her lovely face, though the exhaustion in her eyes was undeniable. Ethan then carried Jessica into the bathroom. She remained completely pliant, letting him gently undress her and then bathe her. Basking in Ethan's gentle care, Jessica was like a content kitten, utterly still, allowing him to tend to her every need, a look of pure bliss on her face. Soon, Ethan carried a freshly cleaned Jessica out of the bathroom, laying her gently on the bed before lying down beside her. "Ethan, I'm so tired today. I want a kiss," Jessica murmured, snuggled against his chest. She tilted her head up, her luminous eyes gazing into his, her lips forming a small pout as she wheedled him. "All right, you get one," Ethan replied, his expression resigned but his voice laced with deep affection. He lowered his head, capturing her soft lips with his. A delighted smile touched Jessica's lips as she tilted her face up, reveling in the kiss. After a long moment, they broke apart. Already exhausted, the passionate kiss left Jessica feeling utterly boneless, melting completely against Ethan's chest. Ethan gently stroked her hair, his expression filled with tenderness and concern. "You really don't have to do all this for me, he said softly. "My parents aren't demanding when it comes to a daughter-in-law. Honestly, they'd be thrilled with you even if you didn't lift a finger." Jessica lifted her head, her expression earnest. "But I want to make a good impression. I want them to really like me as their daughter-in-law." Ethan understood, of course. Despite Jessica's stunning looks and privileged background, she still harbored insecurities. She just wanted to be perfect, to give his parents, the old folks, absolutely nothing to criticize. Only then, she felt, would she truly be accepted as the Thompson family's daughter-in-law. Ethan said gently, "Honestly, you don't have to try so hard. The first time Sarah Thompson visited my parents, she didn't lift a finger. Just sat there like some pampered princess." And yet, Ethan continued, recalling his ex-wife, his gaze growing distant. "My parents were perfectly happy with her. The first time he brought Sarah Thompson home to meet his parents, she'd done absolutely nothing, hadn't even brought a gift. Even so, his parents hadn't uttered a word of complaint. After all, back in their rural village, for someone like Ethan, finding such a beautiful wife was considered a huge catch. His parents weren't about to be picky. Yet here was Jessica, a genuine socialite, trying her best to act like the daughter of ordinary folks. Doing chores, buying gifts. The contrast with Sarah Thompson couldn't be starker. Hearing this, Jessica puffed out her cheeks, a determined glint entering her eyes. "So that's how Sarah Thompson acted on her first visit? Well then, I'll just have to do even better. I'll make your parents like me even more than they liked her." Ethan chuckled, shaking his head slightly, but a warmth spread through him. "You don't have to do anything. You're already infinitely better than she ever was." "Really?" Jessica's eyes brightened instantly, a wide smile blooming on her face. "Of course," Ethan confirmed with a serious nod. Good," Jessica murmured, nuzzling against his chest, her eyes sparkling with happiness. Reassured by Ethan, her nervousness about visiting his parents finally began to subside. "Okay now," Ethan said gently, tucking the covers around her. "You're exhausted. Time for sleep." He reached for the light switch. "Ethan," Jessica piped up suddenly, looking up at him with wide, earnest eyes. "We haven't done everything yet." "What's that?" Ethan asked, momentarily confused. "We haven't performed our marital duty tonight," she reminded him pointedly. "Seriously?" Ethan was incredulous. "You're dead tired, and you're still thinking about baby making?" He couldn't resist, gently flicking her on the forehead. "Ow!" Jessica rubbed her forehead, pouting. "I don't care. We still need to make a baby tonight. And I don't want to move. So, you'll have to handle it. Ethan shook his head in exasperation and simply switched off the light. Enough. No more talking. Just sleep tonight, understand? And stop thinking about other things. He refused her unreasonable demand and settled down to sleep. However, he'd underestimated Jessica's persistence. The valley girl snuggled against him, refusing to lie still, peppering his neck with kisses. She teased and provoked him until he was thoroughly aroused. What man could possibly resist such blatant seduction? Finally, left with no alternative, Ethan had little choice but to satisfy her demands right then and there. And true to her word, Jessica didn't lift a finger the entire time. The next day, 9 a.m., the sun was warm but not scorching, and a gentle breeze blew. After breakfast, Ethan and Jessica packed up, got in the car, and left the manor to head back to Ethan's parental home. This time, Ethan drove a Maybach, figuring it would be better suited for the rural, mountainous roads leading to his parental home, some of which were still unpaved dirt tracks. Soon, the car turned onto the mountain roads. Ethan estimated they'd reach Willow Creek Village in about half an hour. Meanwhile, Jessica, in the passenger seat, was fidgeting nervously. They were almost at the Thompson family home, and the thought of meeting Ethan's family made her, the daughter-in-law visiting for the first time, extremely nervous. She worried desperately that the Thompsons wouldn't like her. Soon, the car rolled into Willow Creek Village, drawing stares from many residents along the way. After all, it was a small village where few families owned cars. A luxury car like this was bound to turn heads. Before long, Ethan pulled the car up to his family's doorstep. Jenna was already waiting eagerly by the door. When she saw the Maybach parked outside their house, she couldn't help but gasp. This car, isn't it worth over $1 million? She thought. How did my brother come back in this? Can he even afford it? Before she could snap out of her surprise, she saw Ethan and Jessica getting out of the car. The moment she saw Jessica, Jenna's eyes widened even further in astonishment. Because this new sister-in-law of mine, she's absolutely gorgeous, she thought. Prettier than any of those celebrities on social media. Especially that noble air she has, radiating from within. You can tell at a glance she's a pampered heiress from a wealthy family. My brother actually landed such a goddess. Jenna's mind reeled. Now, she finally understood where the Maybach came from. Meanwhile, Jessica seemed a bit reserved. Holding Ethan's hand, she looked around curiously at her surroundings, a shy expression on her face. Jenna, this is my girlfriend, Ethan said, leading Jessica over to his sister. Hi, sister-in-law, Jenna greeted sweetly with a smile. Hello, Jessica replied, a little embarrassed, offering a polite smile. Son, you're back. Just then, the old folks inside heard the commotion and hurried out. The old folks already knew their son was bringing his girlfriend home today and had been waiting eagerly. When they saw Jessica beside Ethan, the old folks inevitably paused, taken aback. This girl, she's just too beautiful, they thought. They hadn't expected their son to find such a stunning girlfriend. It completely exceeded their expectations. Son, is this your girlfriend? Ethan's mother, Margaret Thompson, looked at Jessica, liking her more and more the longer she looked. This girl is truly gorgeous. That face, that figure, that aura. She's definitely from the city. I wonder how our son managed to find her. Dad, Mom, this is my girlfriend. Her name is Jessica. Ethan introduced her to the old folks, pulling Jessica closer. Then, Ethan introduced his parents to Jessica. Jessica, this is my dad and mom. Jessica took a step forward. Looking at her parents-in-law, she seemed nervous and timidly called out, Dad, Mom. As soon as Jessica finished speaking, everyone present was stunned. William and Margaret Thompson, especially, stared wide-eyed. They never imagined their son's girlfriend would call them Dad and Mom on her very first visit. Other girls usually called the parents Uncle and Auntie when meeting them for the first time. But Jessica just went right ahead and called them Dad and Mom. Jenna was also stunned. Isn't my new sister-in-law a bit too eager, she thought. Who calls their boyfriend's parents Dad and Mom on the first meeting? Ethan, after a moment of surprise, quickly understood. He didn't think there was anything wrong with it, though. Jessica's dad and mom might have been sudden, but it wasn't incorrect because Jessica wasn't just his girlfriend. She was his wife. They were already married and had the certificate to prove it. They were husband and wife in the truest sense. As for Jessica, after calling them Dad and Mom, she seemed to get shy, lowering her head, her cheeks flushing red. Actually, she had agonized over this before coming. Should she call Ethan's parents Uncle and Annie for the first meeting or go straight to Dad and Mom? Logically, since it was her first visit and Ethan's parents didn't know they were married, she should have used Uncle and Annie. But then she thought about how she and Ethan were already married, legally registered. Calling them Uncle and Auntie felt inappropriate. So she decided to just follow Ethan's lead and call them Dad and Mom. She'd have to call them that sooner or later anyway. G.I. girl, what did you call us? William Thompson stammered, finally snapping out his daze. He looked uncertainly at Jessica Smith, wondering if he'd misheard. Seeing Jessica's embarrassment, Ethan Thompson stepped forward and explained to the old folks, Dad, Mom, Jessica, and I were already married. We registered our marriage. What? His words struck William Thompson, Margaret Thompson, and Jenna Thompson dumbfounded once again. They were already surprised enough that Ethan had brought a girlfriend home. After all, given Ethan's circumstances, they thought it would be difficult for him to find a partner. The old folks had been constantly worrying about this, with Margaret Thompson even asking around the Wilson residence about suitable girls. But then, unexpectedly, Ethan had found a girlfriend in the city. That alone was a wonderful surprise. But now Ethan Thompson was telling them, not only had he found someone, but they were already legally married. This is too sudden. They were completely unprepared for this. All right, Dad, Mom, let's not just stand here. Let's go inside and talk, Ethan Thompson said with a smile to the stunned group. All right. Come on, dear, let's go inside. Margaret Thompson recovered, quickly stepping forward to take Jessica Smith's arm and lead her into the house. Now, Margaret Thompson thought, Jessica Smith wasn't just her son's girlfriend. She was her daughter-in-law, the real deal. Okay, Mom. Jessica Smith smiled shyly and let her mother-in-law lead her into the house. Son, why didn't you tell us you got married? Your mother's been worrying herself sick over finding you a match. William Thompson said, looking at his son. He wasn't angry. Instead, his face beamed with happiness. Who would have thought his son would suddenly bring home a daughter-in-law? Now everything was settled, no more worries. Yeah, bro, getting married without telling us. Jenna Thompson chimed in, pouting playfully with a mischievous look. She then playfully punched Ethan Thompson lightly on the chest with her small fist. But seriously, bro, you really pulled this off? Jenna Thompson's expression turned to admiration. This sister-in-law is gorgeous, way prettier than Sarah. All right, let's go in. Ethan Thompson stepped into the house, worried Jessica Smith wouldn't be comfortable without him nearby. After all, this was her first time visiting, and in such an unfamiliar environment, Jessica Smith must be incredibly nervous inside. Once inside, he saw Jessica Smith sitting on the sofa while Margaret Thompson poured her a glass of water. Ethan Thompson walked over and sat down beside her. Jessica Smith, who had been tense, instantly calmed down as if she'd found her anchor the moment he was next to her. Honey, did you really register your marriage with my Ethan? Even now, Margaret Thompson found it somewhat hard to believe. Just 2 days ago, she was losing sleep over her son's marital status. And today, Ethan Thompson brought home a real, live daughter-in-law. It felt like an unexpected blessing. Yes, Mom. Ethan Thompson and I are officially married. Jessica Smith nodded with a gentle smile, her voice soft. She appeared very polite and composed, like a socialite. So, dear, where's your family from? Who do you have back home? Margaret Thompson started inquiring about Jessica Smith's family background. Jessica Smith replied softly, Mom, my parents died in a car accident when I was young, and my grandfather passed away 2 weeks ago. Right now, it's just me. Hearing this, Margaret Thompson froze. William Thompson and Jenna Thompson, who had just entered, also looked astonished. They hadn't expected Jessica Smith to have no family left. Oh, I'm so sorry, dear. I didn't know your parents were gone. Margaret Thompson felt a pang of guilt, realizing how tragic Jessica Smith's situation was. She quickly took Jessica Smith's hands and apologized profusely. It's all right, Mom. I have Ethan Thompson now. Jessica Smith smiled, seemingly unfazed. Honestly, during the period right after her grandfather passed, Jessica Smith had felt incredibly lonely and helpless, feeling like she'd been abandoned. She had no other relatives in the world. But ever since her trial separation with Ethan Thompson, it was as if she'd found a reason to live again, especially after truly getting together with him. Ethan Thompson's presence filled the void of loneliness in her heart. She knew she wouldn't be alone anymore, because she had Ethan Thompson, such a sensible girl. Honey, from now on, this is your home. We are all your immediate family. Margaret Thompson said softly, feeling a wave of sympathy as she looked at Jessica Smith's composed face. She patted Jessica Smith's shoulder gently. Okay. Jessica Smith nodded earnestly, calling her mom sweetly. Now, she didn't just have Ethan Thompson. She had parents and a sister-in-law too. And, of course, another home. All right, Margaret Thompson, the chicken is still stewing in the pot. Go check on it. William Thompson reminded her from the doorway, looking slightly exasperated at how his wife was glued to the spot upon seeing her daughter-in-law. Oh, right, I forgot. Honey, you just sit tight. I'll go finish cooking. We'll eat soon. Margaret Thompson finally remembered the unfinished meal in the kitchen and hurried off. William Thompson followed, as the old folks had intentionally prepared a large meal, knowing their son was bringing his partner home. And Margaret Thompson couldn't handle it all alone. After the old folks left, Jessica Smith let out a quiet sigh of relief. It couldn't be helped. It was her first time meeting her parents-in-law, and it would be a lie to say she wasn't nervous. Sister-in-law, you're really beautiful. Jenna Thompson seized the opportunity to scoot closer. Looking at the unreasonably gorgeous Jessica Smith, it still felt a bit surreal. Her new sister-in-law looked like an angel. Her brother really lucked out, leaving Sarah young and immediately meeting such a stunning sister-in-law. He hit the jackpot. Thank you, you're very pretty too, Jessica Smith smiled. Facing Jenna Thompson, she felt less pressure. They were both young women with plenty of common topics, making it easier to connect. Soon enough, the two young women were getting along well. Ethan Thompson, meanwhile, sat to the side, flipping through channels with the remote and watching SpongeBob. Oh, right, Jenna Thompson, I almost forgot. I got something for you. Jessica Smith suddenly remembered after chatting for a while and feeling less nervous. She had prepared gifts for everyone in the Thompson family, but had forgotten to take them out. She immediately retrieved a prepared cash gift envelope from her suitcase and handed it to Jenna Thompson. Here, a cash gift envelope from your sister-in-law. Jenna Thompson's eyes lit up at the sight of the cash gift envelope, but she didn't take it immediately. Instead, she looked at Ethan Thompson, seeking her brother's opinion. Your sister-in-law gave it to you. Just accept it. Ethan Thompson chuckled helplessly. Jenna Thompson beamed, happily taking the cash gift envelope. Hee. Thank you, sister-in-law. You're welcome. Jessica Smith waved dismissively. Huh, sister-in-law, this cash gift envelope is really thick. Jenna Thompson paused, noticing something was off. The envelope was large and thick. She opened it slightly and immediately saw a thick stack of red bills. Her eyes widened instantly, her mind reeling. She was still a student. She had never seen so much money before. Sister-in-law, how much money is in here? Jenna Thompson asked, stunned. Not much, just over $30,000, Jessica Smith said casually. She had prepared this specifically for Jenna Thompson. After all, this was her only sister-in-law, and she needed to establish a good relationship. Besides this, she had other gifts for Jenna Thompson as a first meeting present, but they were still in the car. $30,000 plus. Jenna Thompson's voice jumped several octaves, her eyes wide. She had assumed the cash gift envelope would contain a few hundred at most. She never expected it to be over $30,000. Over $30,000. For a student, this was practically a windfall. Ethan Thompson watched her shock with an amused helplessness. Don't make such a fuss. $30,000 plus isn't her limit. It's the limit of this cash gift envelope. It can only fit that much. Your sister-in-law originally wanted to stuff over $100,000 in there for you. $100,000 plus. Jenna Thompson's already wide eyes widened even further, almost popping out her head. A cash gift envelope with over $100,000. She had never even seen one in her entire life. She looked at her new sister-in-law, calmed her racing heart, and asked tentatively, Sister-in-law, what do you do for work? Her new sister-in-law seemed way too wealthy. She was curious about what kind of job could possibly be so lucrative. Me? I've never had a job. Jessica Smith shook her head, answering truthfully. Never had a job? Jenna Thompson was flabbergasted. Yeah, I haven't. This money is all from my parental home, Jessica Smith stated honestly. Seeing the two women staring wide-eyed at each other, Ethan Thompson couldn't help but jump in and explain Jessica Smith's parental home situation. Jenna Thompson, you've heard of the EverSafe Insurance Group, right? That insurance group belongs to Jessica Thompson's family. What? Jenna gasped, absolutely stunned. She spent a lot of time online, so of course, she knew about EverSafe Insurance Group. It was one of the biggest insurance companies in the country, worth tens of billions. She never could have imagined that EverSafe Insurance Group belonged to her sister-in-law's family, the Thompsons. Truthfully, when Ethan had driven back in that Maybach, she'd already realized her sister-in-law must be quite well off. But she hadn't expected this level of wealth. Her own brother had managed to land such a super-rich, beautiful heiress. Did he save the galaxy in a past life? How could he possibly meet such an incredibly wealthy woman? The crucial part was, Jessica wasn't just rich. Her looks were absolutely top tier. At that moment, even though she was a girl, Jenna couldn't help but feel a pang of envy toward her brother. He was just too lucky. Compared to Jessica, his ex, Sarah, was absolutely nothing. Sis, I heard EverSafe Insurance Group. is worth tens of billions. Is that true? Jenna asked, her expression dazed, eyes wide with shock. Jessica smiled and nodded. It's true, but the actual liquid assets aren't quite that much. I see. Jenna looked at Jessica, then down at the cash gift envelope in her hand. Well then, sis, I'll accept this cash gift envelope. Her sister-in-law was worth billions. Compared to billions, this $30,000 plus cash gift envelope suddenly seemed trivial. Go ahead, take it. It was always meant for you. Thanks, sis. Jenna happily accepted the envelope. She was ecstatic about this unexpected windfall. After all, she was just a student. This much money could fund her splurges for a long time. By the way, sis, let me interview you. How did my brother manage to snag you? As a super-rich socialite, what exactly do you see in him? Jenna was bursting with curiosity now. How on earth did her brother manage to win over a girl as exceptional as Jessica? This kind of ordinary folks meets socialite lifestyle story was something she'd only seen in cheesy soap operas, never in real life. To think it was happening to her own brother felt unreal. Jessica chuckled. Your brother didn't pursue me. I pursued him. You pursued my brother? Jenna was shocked again, her expression full of disbelief. She couldn't fathom that someone with Jessica's socialite lifestyle would actively pursue her brother. Wait, why? Does my brother even deserve her? That was Jenna's first thought. She just couldn't wrap her head around it. Her brother was just a divorced guy. What could possibly attract a socialite like Jessica? Jessica nodded. Yes, I pursued him, and it took quite a lot of effort. Seeing that Jessica didn't seem to be joking, Jenna turned to Ethan for confirmation. Ethan cleared his throat twice and said seriously, It's true, your sister-in-law pursued me. For some reason, seeing his little sister's dumbfounded expression gave him a sense of secret satisfaction, especially as he felt her attitude towards him gradually shifting towards admiration. A feeling of contentment welled up inside him. Sis, are you blind? How could you fall for my brother? The words escaped Jenna's lips before she could stop them. In her eyes, her brother was simply not good enough for Jessica. Ahem, Jenna, watch your mouth. Ethan, who had been feeling rather pleased moments ago, was caught off guard and felt a wave of embarrassment. He shot the girl a look, warning her to mind her words. Oomph. It's true. If I were a socialite, I wouldn't give you the time of day. Jenna retorted defiantly, glaring back. Watching the siblings bicker, Jessica found it rather amusing. At the same time, she felt a warm sense of home. Jenna, your brother is wonderful, Jessica said, turning to Ethan with incredibly soft eyes full of doting affection. I don't care how others see him. In my eyes, he's the best. I've been fond of your brother for many, many years. Seeing Jessica's blissful expression, Jenna couldn't help but sigh. Sis, my brother is truly fortunate to have met you. In her view, her brother normally had trouble finding anyone. But now he had this drop-dead gorgeous, multi-billionaire heiress who genuinely loved him. Her brother had seriously hit the jackpot. You're mistaken. Being able to finally be with him is my good fortune. Jessica smiled, disagreeing. As she saw it, after waiting 17 years, finally being able to be with Ethan made her the luckiest one. All right, dinner's ready. What are you all chatting about? Just then, Margaret Thompson walked in carrying dishes, asking the three kids sitting on the sofa. Jenna proudly held up the cash gift envelope. Mom, sis gave me a cash gift envelope. Oh, Margaret Thompson looked surprised, then turned to Jessica Smith with a slightly helpless expression. Honey, you didn't need to bring anything, let alone give her a cash gift envelope. It's okay, Mom. Jessica Smith smiled gently. Mom, I actually brought a few other things for you this time. I'll get them for you in a bit. Oh dear, you really shouldn't have brought anything. We're all family. No need to spend money like that. Although Margaret Thompson said this, the fondness in her eyes grew deeper. This daughter-in-law was truly thoughtful. It's nothing, Mom, just some small things, Jessica Smith said, the word Mom rolling off her tongue more and more naturally. All right then. A few minutes later, all the food was on the table. It was a full steak dinner, the aroma filling the air. Of course, these dishes might not have been as lavish as what Jessica usually ate at her parental home. But in the countryside, this spread represented the old folks' heartfelt welcome. Meanwhile, Ethan Thompson helped Jessica Smith bring in the gifts and various items from the car. Seeing so many things made the old folks feel a bit embarrassed. Jessica had prepared Earl Grey tea, acai bowls, various expensive herbal supplements, and specific meeting gifts for the parents, including a bracelet and a watch. Altogether, these items added up to over $100,000. Of course, neither Ethan nor Jessica mentioned the price, fearing it would shock the old folks. There was also a necklace for Jenna Thompson, worth over $30,000. When Ethan quietly told her the price, her eyes instantly widened. It was the most expensive gift she had ever received. Her first thought was, do I, a valley girl, even deserve to wear such an expensive necklace? The feeling was utterly surreal. She was so preoccupied with the $30,000 plus necklace that she was somewhat absent-minded throughout dinner, her mind racing with thoughts of becoming a little rich girl herself. Here, honey, have some food. This chicken is home-raised, just butchered this morning. Try it, Margaret Thompson said as soon as they sat down, putting some chicken onto Jessica Smith's plate. As the daughter-in-law, Jessica couldn't really refuse, so she obediently held out her bowl. Okay, thank you, Mom. We're all family. No need for thank yous, Margaret Thompson chided her playfully. Jessica Smith felt a little shy but still replied, Okay, Mom. That's more like it. A gratified smile spread across Margaret Thompson's aged face. Ethan Thompson sat beside Jessica Smith the whole time, keeping an eye on her. It was her first visit, and he worried she might not feel comfortable. But seeing her now, it seemed she was fitting in quite quickly. After dinner, Margaret Thompson started clearing the dishes. Seeing this, Jessica Smith, who was clearly ready, immediately stepped forward to help. Jessica, dear, no need. You just sit down, I'll handle it. Margaret Thompson quickly tried to stop her. It was her daughter-in-law's first visit. After all, she couldn't possibly let her do chores. Mom, let me help you, it's really okay. But Jessica Smith was insistent and wouldn't take no for an answer. In the end, Margaret Thompson couldn't dissuade her and had to relent. However, her gaze towards Jessica grew increasingly fond and satisfied. Watching Jessica Smith bustling about in the kitchen, Jenna Thompson wore a peculiar expression. She couldn't resist sidling up to Ethan Thompson and whispering secretively, Bro, isn't Jess supposed to be some super rich beauty? Does she actually do chores back home? As Jenna saw it, a super rich girl like Jessica must have been pampered her whole life, the type to have everyone at his beck and call. Surely her family had housekeepers and maids. Why would she ever need to lift a finger for chores like this? Ethan Thompson watched Jessica Smith's busy form, his gaze incredibly gentle. She just learned how, he said softly, in the last couple of days. Just learned. Jenna Thompson scratched her head, puzzled for a moment before the realization dawned. So, Jessica didn't usually do chores, but she deliberately learned how, just to make a good impression on his parents. Thinking this, she looked at her brother, her eyes brimming with admiration. Bro, how did you get so lucky? A sister-in-law like her. They just don't make him like that anymore. She's a real gem. Okay, I've decided. I'm officially on team Jess now, Jenna Thompson declared, switching her allegiance on the spot. If you ever dare to bully her, I'll back her up, not you. Got it. Ethan Thompson rolled his eyes. You little materialist. One cash gift envelope and a necklace, and suddenly you don't even recognize your own brother. It is not about the money, Jenna Thompson retorted, planting her hands on her hips, cheeks puffed indignantly. T6, Ethan Thompson scoffed, not bothering to engage further. He simply got up, walked into the kitchen, and joined Jessica Smith by the sink, starting to help with the dishes. Jessica Smith paused, startled for a second when he suddenly appeared beside her, but then her eyes lit up with happy surprise. Being in this unfamiliar house, right next to her mother-in-law, had put her under a lot of pressure. This wasn't her home turf, after all. What if she accidentally dropped and broke a dish? The thought alone was mortifying. But Ethan's presence instantly soothed her nerves. The anxiety fluttering in her chest subsided. Ethan Thompson simply smiled back. No words needed. His presence was enough. Nearby, Margaret Thompson wiped down the table, watching them work together by the sink. They looked so perfect together, she thought, her heart swelling with happiness. She couldn't help but start humming softly. Later that afternoon, the house suddenly filled with visitors. They were all Willow Creek residents, villagers who had heard Ethan Thompson brought his new girlfriend home and were curious to see what she looked like. It was typical of country folk. They loved a bit of excitement and tended to gather wherever something was happening. And so, the villagers came in waves. Upon seeing Jessica Smith's breathtaking beauty, the curious onlookers were stunned. They never imagined Ethan Thompson would bring home someone so gorgeous, even prettier than Emma. Everyone was captivated by her stunning looks. And so, word that Ethan Thompson had brought a beauty home quickly spread through the village. Willow Creek residents buzzed with the news, telling everyone they encountered. Hey, did you hear? That rascal Ethan Thompson brought a girl home. Wow, she's gorgeous. Heard about William Thompson's son? Brought a girlfriend back. They say she's pretty as a movie star. Did you hear? Ethan Thompson's girlfriend is a movie star. You won't believe this. Ethan Thompson found a movie star, and she rode into town on an elephant. And so the rumors flew. Consequently, Ethan Thompson's house became as bustling and noisy as a town market, with an endless stream of curious visitors, adults and children alike. I heard there's a movie star in the village, over at Ethan Thompson's. Yeah, isn't Ethan Thompson's girlfriend supposed to be a movie star? Where is she? I don't see any movie star. And the elephant? Where's the elephant? More villagers crowded around the front door. Inside, Jessica Smith sat quietly on the sofa next to Ethan Thompson, looking rather shy amidst all the attention. She barely spoke to the visiting villagers, only offering polite answers when directly addressed. The villagers, upon seeing Jessica up close, couldn't stop complimenting her looks. Many remarked on Ethan's incredible luck in finding such a beautiful girlfriend. The village men, particularly the older bachelors, eyed Ethan with blatant envy, practically staring holes through him. The curious crowds finally dispersed around sunset. Later that evening, at 8 p.m., Ethan's parents served a special steak dinner. The family gathered around the table, enjoying the food and each other's company in a warm, happy atmosphere. By this time, Jessica had largely acclimatized, or rather, fully adapted to the Thompson family's home environment. During dinner, she was no longer noticeably reserved, appearing much more natural and at ease. "Oh, by the way, Jessica dear," Margaret Thompson suddenly said, putting down her cutlery and turning to Jessica Smith beside Ethan Thompson. Jessica Smith immediately sat up straighter, looking attentive. "Yes, Mom." Margaret Thompson exchanged a glance with William Thompson. She hesitated briefly before saying, "Jessica dear, we know your family isn't around anymore, and that you and Ethan Thompson are already married. But even so, when it comes to getting married, there are proper traditions and courtesies that shouldn't be neglected. It wouldn't be right to you otherwise." Traditions? Confusion flickered across Jessica Smith's face. She glanced at Ethan Thompson, silently asking what his mother meant. Ethan Thompson looked equally puzzled. Margaret Thompson continued, "It's about your marriage. Things that should rightfully be yours, the Thompson family must provide. We can't let you feel shortchanged. Even though your parents aren't here, matters like the wedding gift, the Thompson family must still formally present it to you. Nowadays, what marriage happens without a proper wedding gift?" Even though Jessica Smith and Ethan Thompson's marriage was already a fact, a fait accompli, the Thompsons couldn't skimp on these important traditions for her. They couldn't just overlook things because she didn't have family standing behind her. That would be taking unfair advantage. This was what Margaret Thompson and William Thompson, the old folks, had decided after talking it over that afternoon. They were both very satisfied with their daughter-in-law, and they felt sympathy for her circumstances. Approaching 30 with no close family left, the old folks felt it was even more important to give Jessica Smith a solid sense of security. Matters like a formal wedding ceremony and the wedding gift couldn't be neglected. They needed to ensure Jessica Smith felt truly valued and cherished. Only then would she feel secure with them. However, when Jessica heard her parents-in-law mention a wedding gift, she looked completely stunned. She had never even considered the matter. After all, she truly wasn't interested in such trivial amounts. All she wanted was to build a good life with Ethan. Ethan and Jenna also had strange expressions when they heard their parents bring up the wedding gift. They thought, "Mom, Dad, the woman is worth $25 million. Why would she care about your little wedding gift?" Of course, even though Jessica might not care, his parents' intentions were good. They couldn't just not give a gift simply because Jessica didn't seem to need one. That would be treating her unfairly. Jessica put down her bowl and chopsticks, looked at her parents-in-law, and said earnestly, "Dad, Mom, I don't need a wedding gift." No wedding gift. Hearing this, William and Margaret were slightly taken aback, then looked at Jessica with even greater satisfaction in their eyes. And, of course, a touch of sympathy. This girl is so considerate, they thought. She doesn't even want a wedding gift. No, we absolutely must give one. "No way, dear," William said with utmost seriousness. "Even though you don't have much family left, we can't treat you poorly." "That's right, dear." Margaret nodded in agreement. "Now that you're with our Ethan, you're like our own daughter. We can't shortchange you." Jessica quickly waved her hands, looking a bit flustered. "Mom, Dad, I really don't need a wedding gift. Of course, if your family needs one, I can give one to you." Jessica had heard that customs in some places involved not only the groom's family giving a gift, but the bride's family giving one as well. She didn't know if this was true, but if the Thompsons needed a wedding gift, she could certainly provide it. Ahem. Jenna, who was still eating, choked at this. She looked like she wanted to laugh, but didn't dare. How interesting, she thought. Not only did the gift not go out, but we almost received one instead. Margaret and William looked at each other, completely bewildered. They had only been thinking about giving Jessica a wedding gift so as not to treat her unfairly. Who would have thought that Jessica would not only refuse it, but offer to give the Thompsons a gift instead? It felt completely backwards. At this point, Jenna, who had been quietly eating, couldn't listen anymore. She looked up helplessly and explained to her parents, "Mom, Dad, although Sis doesn't have much family, she's actually quite wealthy. That's why she doesn't care about these wedding gifts." Hearing this explanation, it finally dawned on Margaret and William. So, their daughter-in-law was rich. No wonder she wasn't concerned about the gift. "But still, I feel like we're treating her poorly," Margaret said, looking at Jessica with sympathy in her eyes. "Mom, it's really okay." Jessica smiled nonchalantly. "I don't care about that stuff. I just want to be with Ethan. That's all." She genuinely only wanted to be with Ethan, purely and simply. As for money, she had more than she could spend. A wedding gift was optional for her. The Thompsons weren't well off. She would feel bad taking a gift from them. "No, we still have to give something," Margaret insisted, feeling even more protective the more considerate Jessica seemed. Since Jessica didn't want a specific gift, she would decide on something appropriate. They couldn't neglect Jessica. "All right, dear, the Thompsons will give what we can. Just don't think it's too little. We can't skip the formalities." "Mom, I really don't need it," Jessica said, exasperated. She truly didn't need a wedding gift. "No, you must accept it," William stated, making the final decision. "All right then," Jessica relented, seeing how stubborn his parents were. But she had already decided inwardly she would find another way to return the value of the gift later. Then, she and Ethan would take good care of his parents together. Having lost her own parents young, she felt the long-lost warmth of having a father and mother again in the Thompson household, and she cherished the family atmosphere. It filled her heart with a gentle sense of happiness. After dinner, Jessica helped Margaret clear the table and do some chores. Of course, Ethan, feeling protective, stayed and helped alongside her. Once everything was done, the family sat in the living room watching TV. It wasn't until 10 o'clock that they all went to their rooms to sleep. Since it was Jessica's first visit, Margaret had already prepared Ethan's room with fresh bedding and sheets, even cleaning the room spotless. The two lay in bed, holding each other. This was Jessica's first time in Ethan's room, her first time sleeping in his bed. Looking around the small room, thinking about how Ethan had slept here growing up, Jessica found it hard to fall asleep. Her eyes darted around, seemingly trying to memorize every detail. "How did you feel today?" Ethan asked softly, holding her soft body close. It was Jessica's first visit, after all, so he was quite concerned about her experience. "It was great. Much better than I expected," Jessica said, smiling as she snuggled into his embrace. "Father and mother are wonderful. I was worried they wouldn't like me at first, but now I see my worries were unnecessary." With no one else around, just her and Ethan, Jessica dropped all pretense and returned to her usual relaxed state with him, not feeling constrained at all. Ethan chuckled. "I told you my father and mother have very low requirements for a daughter-in-law. You were the one making things difficult for yourself, weren't you?" He teased. "But it looks like your strategy worked. They're absolutely set on you now. They insist on having you as their daughter-in-law. You couldn't run away, even if you wanted to." "I wouldn't run away. I wanted to be their daughter-in-law for ages," Jessica pouted, looking smugly adorable. Seeing her triumphant expression, Ethan felt a mix of helplessness and happiness. "This girl really loves me so much. All right, let's sleep. It's getting late," he said, glancing at the night outside, ready to turn off the light. "Ethan, I want to have a baby," Jessica suddenly looked up and said seriously. Ethan froze, then shook his head, refusing. "No, we're at my parents' house. We'd make too much noise. The walls aren't soundproof, and Jenna's room is right next door. She'll hear." This girl, he thought, she's really addicted. Wanted to do that on her first visit to my family home. "Then just be quieter," Jessica pouted, unwilling to give up. "No chance. With my stamina, I can't be quiet." Ethan knew himself well. Jessica wouldn't be able to handle him quietly. "Okay," Jessica sighed, giving up, but still not entirely satisfied. She tried a different approach. "Well, hubby, your wife behaved so well today. Doesn't she deserve a little kiss as a reward?" Jessica fluttered her large, shining eyes, full of expectation. "I really don't know what to do with you." Ethan sighed helplessly, then lowered his head and captured her small mouth in a kiss. The next morning, dawn had barely broken when the village stirred with the sounds of roosters crowing and dogs barking, one after another. Margaret was up early to cook. After all, her son had brought his wife home, so she needed to get breakfast started. However, just as she got the fire going, she saw Jessica was already up too. Margaret glanced at the time, not even 8 o'clock. Seeing Jessica approach, Margaret quickly said, "Valley girl, why aren't you sleeping in? What are you doing up so early?" "Mom, I couldn't sleep anymore, so I got up," Jessica replied with a smile. Truthfully, it wasn't that she couldn't sleep. She just felt that on her first visit to the Thompson family, she shouldn't laze around in bed. Otherwise, her parents-in-law wouldn't have a good impression of her. "All right then, why don't you go watch some TV? I'll handle the cooking in the kitchen," Margaret said, sounding a little resigned, but the look she gave Jessica grew increasingly satisfied. She couldn't help but recall when Ethan first brought Sarah home. Sarah had slept until 9:30. Compared to Sarah, this new daughter-in-law was simply too considerate. "Mom, let me help you," Jessica insisted, not wanting to watch TV. She was focused on making a good impression on her mother-in-law. "No need, you go watch TV. I can manage the cooking myself." Margaret waved her hand, refusing the offer. It was Jessica's first visit. How could she let her do chores right away? "Mom, it's okay, I'll help." Jessica was persistent, taking Margaret's arm and heading straight for the kitchen. "Oh, all right," Margaret sighed, finally giving in, but inwardly, she was delighted. This daughter-in-law was truly hardworking. Soon, with both women busy, breakfast was ready. When Ethan and Jenna finally got up, they found the table laden with a sumptuous meal. Seeing Jenna still rubbing sleep from eyes, Margaret couldn't help but feel exasperated. "Jenna, look at your sister-in-law, how diligent she is. And look at you, sleeping in every day." Scolded right after waking up, Jenna felt wronged. Pouting, she retorted, "Mom, I'm still growing. Sleep helps with development." Margaret rolled her eyes at her. "You rascal, who are you kidding? You're already 20. What growing are you still doing?" Jenna didn't argue further, just stuck her tongue out at her mother and scampered off. Watching his mother and sister, Ethan felt a helpless fondness. He walked into the kitchen towards Jessica. Seeing her tidying up, Ethan smiled gently. "You're being so hardworking now, I almost don't recognize you." Normally, Jessica never lifted a finger when it came to chores, but now, she was actively looking for things to do, incredibly diligent. The contrast struck Ethan as significant. Hearing this, Jessica wrinkled her delicate nose and lifted her chin defiantly. "What's that supposed to mean? That I'm usually lazy? Oh, you think you're usually hardworking?" "Oomph." Jessica didn't reply, just gave a soft snort, and then said bossily, "I don't care, just don't you dare tell your parents I'm usually lazy." "All right, I get it," Ethan agreed, a hint of resignation in his expression. Soon, the family sat down for breakfast. Afterwards, the old folks worried Jessica might get bored staying home. Since it happened to be the day of the county fair, they suggested Ethan take Jessica to check it out. Ethan asked Jessica what she thought. As a wealthy socialite, she had only seen rural county fairs like this on social media. She was quite interested and readily agreed. So, Ethan took Jessica to the county fair. This time, they didn't drive. They took the Thompson family scooter. This was the first time Jessica had ridden a scooter since growing up. She'd ridden with classmates a few times when she was young in school. As an adult, she usually traveled in various Maybachs and hadn't been on a scooter like this since. Now, sitting on the back, arms wrapped around Ethan's waist, feeling the cool mountain breeze, it was a novel experience. "Ethan, this scooter feels so refreshing." Jessica hugged Ethan tighter from behind, resting her head on his shoulder, a look of pure enjoyment on her face. "You're used to luxury cars." "Of course, riding a scooter like this occasionally feels fun," Ethan replied as he navigated the road. "I want to buy one when we get back. Then I can ride it everywhere. No more worrying about traffic jams. It's so convenient." Jessica decided then and there, back in City Hall, she'd buy a scooter. She'd ride it from now on, avoiding traffic and the hassle of finding a parking garage. "Okay, we'll buy one when we get back." Chatting along the way, they soon arrived in town. That's how it is in the countryside. On county fair days, the streets are especially crowded and bustling. This was Jessica's first time at a county fair, and she found it quite fun. Her large eyes couldn't help but dart around, taking everything in. Afraid she might get lost, Ethan held her small hand tightly as they wandered through the streets. Jessica's stunning beauty and exceptional aura made her incredibly eye-catching in the crowd. All along the way, she drew frequent glances from passers-by. Anyone who saw her was thoroughly captivated. At a rural event like this, most attendees were ordinary folks, Willow Creek residents from nearby villages and towns. The sudden appearance of such a striking beauty naturally stood out. Of course, while people were amazed by Jessica, Ethan felt the envious stares of many fellow men. Some even looked at him with outright jealousy. Jessica, however, paid it no mind. Since childhood, she had always been the center of attention wherever she went. She was long accustomed to people's gazes. Right now, Her attention was completely captivated by the roadside stalls. She behaved almost like someone who'd never seen the world before, stopping to look whenever she spotted some strange or interesting curiosity. Occasionally, encountering a snack she'd never tried, she couldn't tear herself away, wanting to buy it and taste it. Naturally, Ethan indulged these small requests. A couple of hours later, they were both getting a bit tired from walking. "Ethan, I want a milkshake," Jessica said, hugging one of Ethan's arms and swinging it coaxingly. "All right, I'll get you one." Feeling the familiar soft pressure against his arm, Ethan felt resigned but fond and led her to a Starbucks on the street. "Are you tired?" Ethan asked, noticing Jessica's sun-flushed cheeks and the fine beads of sweat on her forehead. They were sitting in a corner booth at Starbucks. "I'm okay," Jessica replied with a smile, taking a sip of her milkshake. It's actually more fun than just shopping. She often went shopping with Laura, so she wasn't really tired from the walking. It was just the intense heat and sun that were a bit much for her. "Honestly, these county fairs aren't usually that exciting," Ethan said. "It just feels novel to you because it's your first time. If you grew up in the countryside and went to them all the time, you'd probably find them pretty dull." "I know," Jessica conceded, "but it's still fun to experience it once in a while." They continued chatting as they finished their milkshakes. After half an hour, they had rested enough, and Jessica felt completely recharged. She eagerly pulled Ethan back outside to explore more. They wandered around until about 2 in the afternoon when hunger started to set in. Ethan led Jessica to a diner along the street. Before long, 2 steaming bowls of mac and cheese were placed before them. Jessica rarely ate at small, casual places like this, so it felt a little unfamiliar, but with Ethan beside her, it also felt like a novel experience. "Here, dig in," Ethan said, handing her a pair of chopsticks. "Oh." Jessica nodded and started eating. She had to admit, it was surprisingly tasty. "Ethan." Just then, 2 women walked into the diner from the street. The one in the lead recognized Ethan instantly and called out his name. Ethan, who hadn't started eating yet, paused at the unfamiliar voice, looking up instinctively. He saw the 2 women. The one who had called his name looked vaguely familiar, like he'd seen her somewhere before. He searched his memory for a moment, and then it clicked. Kloe. The woman standing before him was Kloe Wilson, the eldest daughter of the Wilsons from Willow Creek Village. She was the one his mother had intended to set him up with, though the plan fizzled out when his mom learned he already had a girlfriend. What a coincidence, running into her here. It seemed they had also been at the county fair and, feeling hungry, happened to walk into the same diner. Ethan didn't recognize the girl with Kloe. She was probably a friend. Hearing the name, Kloe Wilson, Jessica, who had been focused on her food, snapped her head up. Her eyes narrowed as she looked at Kloe, her expression instantly becoming wary. She couldn't help but size the other woman up from head to toe. After all, this was supposedly the girl Ethan had liked when they were kids. "Ethan, calling me by my name sounds so formal," Kloe teased with a smile. "You always used to call me Big Sis." Her gaze then shifted to Jessica, seated beside him. "Is this your girlfriend, Ethan?" As Kloe got a clear look at Jessica's face, she was momentarily stunned. The girl was gorgeous, and her aura, it was so refined. She definitely looked like she came from a big city. You didn't find girls with that kind of bearing in the countryside. She'd heard yesterday that Ethan had brought his girlfriend home, and the rumors said she was stunning. Seeing Jessica in person, Kloe realized the gossip hadn't exaggerated at all. Jessica put down her chopsticks and looped her arm possessively through Ethan's, tilting her chin slightly. "Hello, I'm Ethan's wife." "Wife? You married?" Kloe blurted out, visibly surprised. The version of the story circulating among the Willow Creek residents was just that Jessica was Ethan's girlfriend. She hadn't expected them to be married already, especially considering Ethan had only finalized his divorce less than 2 weeks ago. To turn around and get married again, that was incredibly fast. "That's right, we've registered our marriage," Ethan confirmed. He glanced at Jessica, who was now leaning her head against his shoulder, feeling a mix of helplessness and affection. He gave Kloe a polite smile and a nod. "Well, congratulations." Kloe managed to smile, though a flicker of disappointment crossed her eyes before vanishing. Just a couple of days ago, her father had still been talking about arranging that blind date with Ethan. She knew she wasn't getting any younger and would have to marry someone eventually. She and Ethan had grown up in the same village. They knew each other's backgrounds well. Plus, Ethan used to have a crush on her when they were kids. She thought that maybe getting together with Ethan wouldn't be so bad. At the very least, married life with him would probably be stable, and stability was what she craved now. Ethan had seemed like a perfectly suitable marriage prospect. But now he was already married. "Thanks," Ethan replied. "We'll be sure to invite you for a celebratory drink when we hold our wedding banquet." "Oh," That would be lovely, Kloe said, pulling her lips into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Here you are, ladies, your pasta, the owner interrupted, placing 2 bowls on the table in front of Kloe and her friend. Thank you, they replied as the owner walked away. So, Ethan, Kloe asked, looking up from her pasta towards the couple across from her, how long have you and your wife been together? About a month or so, Ethan answered casually. In reality, their relationship had only truly begun when Jessica confessed her feelings, which wasn't that long ago at all. But explaining their whole situation was just too complicated and, frankly, pretty wild. He didn't feel like broadcasting it to everyone they met. Wow, getting married after just over a month. It must be true love, Kloe remarked, her gaze drifting towards Jessica again. She couldn't help it. Jessica was just so striking that she naturally drew the eye. It is true love, Jessica chimed in quickly before Ethan could respond, nodding with a completely serious expression. Ethan watched her almost territorial display, feeling a familiar sense of fond exasperation, but underneath it, a quiet warmth spread through him. Soon, Ethan and Jessica finished their meal. When Ethan went to pay, he covered Kloe and her friend's bill as well. Ethan, you really didn't have to do that. We feel bad making you pay, Kloe protested, looking embarrassed. Don't worry about it. It was nothing. Ethan waved it off. We're going to head out now. Enjoy the rest of your meal, Kloe. With a quick farewell, he took Jessica's hand and led her out of the diner. Watching the couple leave, the girl sitting next to Kloe finally voiced her curiosity. Was that the Ethan you were telling me about? The one you were supposed to go on a blind date with? Yeah, that was him, Kloe confirmed with a nod. The friend commented. I don't think he's anything special, but wow, his wife is absolutely gorgeous. Is that right? Kloe murmured, not elaborating further. She returned to her food in silence, her expression somewhat downcast. Back on the street, Jessica clung to Ethan's arm, her lips puffed out in a pout, clearly unhappy about something. What's wrong? Ethan glanced at her. She'd been like this ever since they left the diner. Jessica huffed lightly, looking displeased. You used to call her Big Sis. We've been together all this time, and you've never once called me Big Sis. Well, she is older than me, so calling her Big Sis back then was perfectly normal, Ethan said with an exasperated smile. That was ages ago, when they were kids. Could she really be jealous about that? That answer didn't satisfy Jessica at all. She stopped walking and glared at him, clearly put out. But I'm older than you too, by several months, and you've never called me Big Sis. Ethan paused. She had a point. Jessica was actually a few months older than him. Her birthday had just passed not long ago, while his was still several months away. Ethan scratched his head awkwardly. Seeing her looking so glum, he hesitated for a moment before finally, albeit somewhat sheepishly, calling out, Big Sis. Hearing him call her that, Jessica's eyes instantly lit up. An irrepressible smile spread across her face, impossible to hold back. That's more like it, Jessica declared, lifting her chin proudly. She grabbed Ethan's hand and started walking again. Come on, Big Sis will buy you some candy. Ethan was left speechless. The two wandered the streets for a while longer, picking up a few things here and there. Seeing that it was getting late, Ethan decided it was time to head back. But before they did, he stopped by a bakery and bought a red velvet cake. Because today was his father William's birthday. His main reason for coming back this time was actually to celebrate his father William's birthday. It was only because Jessica insisted on coming along that it turned into him bringing his wife home to meet the family. That evening, Margaret cooked up a feast. The family gathered around the dining table to celebrate William's birthday. Having lived for over half a century, this was the first time William had ever had such a grand birthday celebration, and the first time he'd seen a red velvet cake meant just for him. His usually stern, unsmiling old face held a few more happy smiles tonight. Over the next few days, Jessica gradually grew familiar with the entire village. She wasn't reserved at all anymore, even daring to visit neighbors on her own. Whenever she went visiting, people would say, the Thompson family's wife is here. Jessica would then correct them, saying she was Ethan's wife, the kind who already had a marriage certificate. This often surprised people, especially since Ethan had only recently divorced. They hadn't expected him to remarry so soon. Jessica, however, thoroughly enjoyed this feeling. Gradually, everyone in the village learned that the woman Ethan brought back wasn't just a girlfriend, but his legally wedded wife. Jessica was very satisfied with this. Now the whole village knew she and Ethan were married. Time passed day by day, and finally, the day came for the two to head back to the city. They had stayed in the village long enough. They couldn't stay forever. Before they left, Old Thompson packed a large amount of smoked beef brisket into their suitcase. This kind of brisket was hard to find in the city, but quite common in the countryside. Almost every household had some. Seeing how much Jessica seemed to enjoy the brisket over the past few days, Old Thompson had specially prepared this batch for his daughter-in-law. "Dad, Mom, we're heading off now," Jessica said, leaning out the passenger window and waving goodbye to the old folks. "Daughter, son, come back often when you have time," Margaret said, standing by the car, reluctance clear in her voice. Although William didn't say much, his aged face clearly showed his unwillingness to see them go. Okay, Dad, Mom, we'll come back when we can." Jessica smiled and waved at the old folks. Under their watchful eyes, the car slowly drove away. Soon, the car left Willow Creek Village and was driving along the mountain roads. "So, did you get used to country life these past few days?" Ethan asked casually, glancing over at Jessica in the passenger seat as they drove back. Jessica had been watching the scenery outside the window. Hearing him, she turned, a slight smile on her pretty face. "It was great. Dad and Mom doted on me, and all the uncles, aunties, and neighbors in the village were so welcoming. I quite like it here." Actually, before coming to Willow Creek Village, she had been quite nervous and apprehensive. After all, she knew nothing about the place. But now, she felt it wasn't so daunting anymore. She was familiar with the village now. The next time she came back with Ethan, she wouldn't be scared at all. It would feel just like coming home. "That's good," Ethan nodded. Then, remembering something, he couldn't help asking, "I heard you even went over to Kloe's house yesterday?" Ethan had been quite surprised when he heard about it, especially since this girl had been jealous of Kloe Wilson before. He hadn't expected her to actually visit Kloe's house while making her rounds. He wondered what she'd been thinking. "I didn't go on my own. I was bass fishing by the Willow Creek, and she was doing laundry there. She invited me over. I didn't really want to go, but she was so insistent I didn't have much choice," Jessica explained, looking a little resigned. "So what did you two talk about at her place?" Ethan asked curiously. At this, a mischievous grin spread across Jessica's lips. "Hee, Kloe told me about when you two were kids. She said you used to wet your pants all the time, and whenever you went to her house to play, her golden retriever would always chase you around, trying to bite you." Ethan hadn't expected the two women to gossip about his embarrassing childhood moments. He felt a bit awkward. He couldn't believe Kloe still remembered those skeletons from his closet so clearly, and even worse, told Jessica about them. "And then? What else did you talk about?" Ethan quickly changed the subject. Then she asked about us, how we met, and when we got married. Jessica tilted her head, thought for a moment, and answered honestly. "And what did you tell her?" "I just said I'd always had a secret crush on you, and after your divorce, I started pursuing you. Thanks to my persistent efforts, I finally won you over." "Good. I was worried you might have told her about our trial separation and the whole Sarah lending me to you thing. Do you think I'm stupid?" "Of course, I wouldn't mention any of that." The two chatted all the way back, and time flew by. After 24 miles, the young couple finally arrived back at the manor. Getting out of the car, Jessica looked at the familiar manor before her and let out a soft sigh. Finally back. Returning to her familiar home, Jessica completely relaxed. Although she thought Willow Creek Village was nice, ultimately, she felt most comfortable in her own home. "Miss, where did you buy all this smoked beef brisket?" At that moment, two housekeepers standing by the back of the car couldn't help but stare stunned at the suitcase stuffed full of brisket. "There's so much. How long would it take to eat it all?" "Bought it." Jessica wasn't happy to hear that. She turned to look at them, correcting them seriously. "This was specially prepared for me by my mother-in-law. You can't just buy this anywhere." Oh, he said. The two housekeepers understood immediately. Seeing their miss looking so earnest, they quickly complimented her. "Miss, your mother-in-law is so good to you, preparing all this smoked beef brisket for you." "Exactly. Miss, you're such a nice person. Your mother-in-law must really like you." Hearing this, Jessica couldn't help but smile, a pleased expression spreading across her face. "Of course, my mother-in-law adores me, and everyone in the village likes me too." Jessica lifted her chin, looking slightly smug. All right, let's go inside," Ethan said, finding her show-off attitude both amusing and a little exasperating. He walked over, took her small hand, and led her back into the manor. "Wait, I wasn't finished talking to them." Jessica pouted, a little unhappy. She wanted to continue sharing with the two housekeepers just how much her mother-in-law liked her new daughter-in-law. Watching the master lead the young lady away, the two housekeepers exchanged helpless smiles. Not far away in the flower garden, Robert Lewis stood on the lawn, watching the young couple's retreating backs. A gratified smile touched his aged features. "Time flies. It's already been almost 2 weeks," Robert murmured to himself after a long moment. Seeing his young lady so happy now, he could finally feel at ease. It's about time I handed over the inheritance to Miss. And time for me to leave. In the afternoon, Jessica received a call from Ethan's folks. They were mainly calling to ask if they had arrived home safely. Hearing Jessica confirm their safe arrival, his folks finally breathed a sigh of relief, completely reassured. Afterward, the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law chatted for a few more minutes before hanging up. At dinner, per Jessica's specific request, the smoked beef brisket brought back from the countryside was served. After dinner, with the sun not yet set, Ethan sat on the sofa, playing on his phone, scrolling through TikTok. Suddenly, Jessica walked over and stood in front of him. What? Ethan looked up at Jessica's stunningly beautiful yet expressionless face, sensing she was up to no good. He silently put away his phone, his expression instantly becoming wary. It's getting late. Let's go upstairs to bed, Jessica said boldly, without batting an eye. Ethan glanced at the sky outside the window, then back at Jessica's matter-of-fact look, feeling rather speechless. You call this late? Cut the crap. Let's go. To bed. Jessica couldn't be bothered arguing, grabbing his hand and pulling him upstairs. These past few days in the countryside, although she and Ethan slept in the same room every night, they had avoided any marital duty to prevent awkwardness. This had been constantly on the mind of Jessica, who was eager to have a child. Now that they were back, she just wanted to put having a baby on the agenda. By 9 o'clock that night, the room finally fell quiet. After resting for a while, Ethan got up to take a shower in the bathroom. Jessica, however, remained lying on the bed, clearly exhausted. Ding dong. Just then, the iPhone Jessica had placed on the bedside table chimed with a notification. Utterly drained, Jessica laboriously reached out and picked up the iPhone. After unlocking the screen, she saw it was an iMessage from Laura. Laura, Jessica, are you back? Jessica had chatted with Laura during her days in the countryside, so Laura already knew Jessica had gone with Ethan to his parental home to meet his parents. Jessica typed back, I'm back, already home. Soon, another message came from Laura. Laura, how was the countryside? Your in-laws didn't give you a hard time, did they? Laura seemed very curious. After all, this was Jessica's first relationship, first marriage, and first time meeting the groom's parents. So, she was eager to know how her sister had fared with her in-laws. Jessica, not at all. My in-laws adore me. They wouldn't give me a hard time. Laura, that's good. I was worried you wouldn't adapt to life there, being in the countryside. After all, a pampered young lady like you, used to having people at her beck and call, wouldn't have anyone waiting on you there. Laura's concern wasn't unfounded. Jessica had lived a socialite lifestyle since childhood. Suddenly going to the countryside would definitely be an adjustment. Jessica replied, You're overthinking it. When I went to the countryside, my in-laws loved me, and the Willow Creek residents really liked me too. They all praised how pretty I was, saying I was even prettier than Emma. Recalling her memories from the countryside, a smile touched Jessica's lips, a hint of smugness in her expression. Laura, that's good. By the way, what are you doing now? Laura finally relaxed and started chatting casually. Jessica answered truthfully, Just finished making a baby with my Ethan. Laura, whoa, Jessica, I didn't realize you were so eager. Making babies right after getting back. Laura was clearly surprised. Usually, Jessica had the image of a good girl. She used to give men the cold shoulder, loudly proclaiming she believed in staying single and keeping her distance from all men worldwide. But now she was so proactive. The contrast couldn't be starker. Jessica's pretty face flushed slightly, feeling a little embarrassed inside. But she remained stubborn, refusing to admit it. Jessica, I'm not eager. I just genuinely want to have Ethan's baby soon. Laura, TCH, like I believe that. However, Laura didn't buy her nonsense at all. Jessica got a little flustered, feeling like her image was somewhat ruined. She quickly reiterated, Jessica, really, I honestly just want to have a baby. Laura, yeah, right. Anyway, Jessica, quick, tell me, how is your Ethan? In that department? Is he amazing? Laura asked gossipily. Remembering Ethan's vigorous performance earlier, Jessica's cheeks couldn't help but feel hot as she typed a reply. Jessica, my Ethan is incredible. At least half an hour each time. He really wears me out. Laura, really? Ethan is that potent? Laura was shocked. She hadn't expected the seemingly mild-mannered Ethan to be so intense. She was instantly filled with envy. Ethan lasted at least half an hour each time, while her Daniel rarely went over 3 minutes. Compared to Ethan, the difference was just too vast. Jessica, yeah, my Ethan is amazing. It's stressing me out. I can hardly keep up with him. Jessica looked somewhat smug. She used to doubt Ethan's abilities, but she hadn't expected him to be so potent. He satisfied her completely every time. Laura, why do I feel like you're humble bragging? Fine, let's stop talking. Let me be jealous for a bit. Meanwhile, Laura lay on her bed, looking at the iMessage reply from Jessica. She felt quite unbalanced and decisively ended the chat. Just as she put down her phone, Daniel came into the room after a shower. Seeing her alluring figure in her nightgown on the bed, Daniel's blood instantly started pumping, and he pounced eagerly. Laura, here I come. Get lost. Don't bother me. However, what greeted him was a swift roundhouse kick. Before Daniel could figure out what was happening, he was kicked off the bed. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 2 weeks had passed since Sarah and Ethan's trial separation. Today, Sarah, accompanied by her BFF Olivia, arrived bright and early at the manor. According to her agreement with Jessica Smith, their transaction was officially over today. Logically, Jessica Smith should return Sarah's husband to her. After parking their scooters by the roadside, the two women walked up to the manor's entrance. 2 security personnel in suits stood guard at the gate, their postures ramrod straight, faces stern. Under the scorching sun, they looked like 2 motionless statues, almost excessively dedicated. Sarah and Olivia stopped and addressed one of the male guards. You two, go get your miss for me. I have business with her. Sarah sounded perfectly justified, her attitude even a little haughty. In her mind, she was entirely in the right today. Jessica Smith was the one in the wrong. So, naturally, she should hold her head high, coming to demand her husband back. Oh, who are you? The guard looked her up and down, frowning slightly, clearly displeased. This woman had approached them with such arrogance right off the bat. Of course, he wasn't happy. Who am I? I'm Sarah. I'm here today to get my husband back. Cut the crap and get your miss out here, Sarah snapped, urging him impatiently with a pout. Yeah. Hurry up and get Jessica Smith out here. We don't want to waste time. Olivia chimed in, speaking rudely to the guard. It was so hot today, she didn't feel like waiting long. Looking at the 2 valley girls before him, the guard grew increasingly annoyed. But unsure of their identity, he managed to restrain his temper and said patiently, Wait here, then I'll go ask our miss. He turned to enter the manor, but was suddenly stopped by the other male guard. Hold on, I recognize them. The second guard looked at Sarah and Olivia, finding them increasingly familiar until he finally remembered. These 2 women had been to the manor recently. Good, you recognize us? Now hurry up and get Jessica Smith. I have important business with her, Sarah said, her patience wearing thin, her expression bordering on irritable. The master and miss already said, if these 2 women show up again, just chase them away. The guard who recognized them stepped forward, pointing at the 2 women and warning sternly, You 2, leave now. If you don't go, I'll have to get physical. What? You're actually going to kick us out? Sarah and Olivia's eyes widened in disbelief. They were completely stunned. As far as they were concerned, they were entirely justified today. But now, these 2 guards were actually trying to drive them away. No. On what grounds? That's right. We're kicking you out. Scram. If you don't, we'll make you. The 2 guards didn't care. They immediately stepped forward, rolling up their sleeves, looking ready for a fight. Sarah instantly bristled, an uncontrollable wave of anger surging within her. On what ground are you kicking us out? I'm here today to get my husband back. Jessica Smith and I agreed on this long ago. What right do you have to chase us away? Olivia, also fuming, pointed at the guards' noses and demanded righteously, Exactly. Why should you kick us out? Have you no sense of reason? Jessica Smith owes us this. Is it wrong for us to come and get her husband back? However, faced with their indignant accusations, the 2 guards couldn't be bothered to respond. They simply grabbed the women's arms and started dragging them away from the manor. Why are you kicking us out? Why? Let go of me. I'm warning you, let go. Believe it or not, I'll bite you. The 2 women protested furiously, struggling constantly, but they were easily overpowered by the strong guards and dragged away. Finally, they were thrown roughly onto the roadside. Where do these crazy women come from? Scram. Don't ever come back. And don't force me to hit women. One of the guards warned coldly before turning back to the manor and resuming his post at the gate. This is infuriating. Sarah felt like she was going crazy. Coming here today to get her husband back was perfectly justified, yet she had been chased away like a dog by 2 guards. That Jessica Smith has gone too far. How dare she treat us like this? She clearly promised to return him after 2 weeks, and now she's trying to back out. Olivia was equally furious. She had even put on makeup before leaving the house today, only to end up looking so disheveled thanks to the guards. Sarah, give me your phone. I need to call Jessica Smith, Sarah said to Olivia, suppressing her rage. Her own phone number had long been blocked by Ethan and Jessica Smith. She couldn't get through it all. To contact Jessica Smith, she had to use someone else's phone. Oh, okay. Olivia didn't waste words, pulling her phone from her bag and handing it to Sarah. Fueled by fury, Sarah dialed Jessica Smith's number. Soon the call connected. "Hello, who is this?" Jessica Smith's voice came through the line. At this moment, Jessica Smith didn't know it was Sarah calling. If she had known, she wouldn't have answered. "Jessica Smith, it's me, Sarah," Sarah said through gritted teeth. "You?" Jessica Smith frowned slightly, her expression instantly turning cold. "Jessica Smith, the 2 weeks are up. Shouldn't you give me my husband back?" Sarah didn't beat around the bush, getting straight to the point, demanding her husband. "Ethan is my husband, not yours. You wanted to give him back? Don't even think about it." Jessica Smith had no pleasantries for Sarah and rejected her outright. "Jessica Smith, don't take this too far. We agreed. I only lent you my husband for 2 weeks. How can you go back on your word now?" Sarah was already simmering with anger, and hearing Jessica Smith speak so arrogantly made it impossible to hold back. She clenched her fists tightly, wishing she could give Jessica Smith a good beating. "Sarah, I don't want to waste my breath on you. Ethan is mine now for the rest of our lives. I will never be separated from him, and I will never give him back to you. Just give up hope. Goodbye." Jessica Smith finished speaking and hung up the phone abruptly. "Jessica Smith!" Sarah completely lost it, letting out a hysterical scream. The anger pent-up inside her erupted like a volcano. Losing all reason, in her fury, she slammed the phone violently onto the ground, as if smashing not the phone, but Jessica Smith, that homewrecker. Olivia stared dumbfounded at the shattered phone on the ground. Meanwhile, Sarah grew angrier the more she thought about it. Unable to contain herself any longer, she started cursing wildly right there, like a madwoman. "Jessica Smith, you homewrecker. You shameless homewrecker. Why don't you just die? I'm so mad. Jessica Smith, you jerk. You're shameless. On what grounds won't you give my husband back to me?" Sarah was like a mad dog, stamping her feet, her whole body trembling. Her face twisted in rage. She looked like she was about to shatter her teeth from clenching them so hard. "Jessica Smith, how could you do this to me? How could you break your promise? What right do you have to keep my husband?" I'm furious." Sarah Thompson screamed hysterically, overcome with rage, looking like a total drama queen throwing a tantrum in the street. "Sarah, I think. That was my phone you just threw." Olivia, slowly coming back to her senses, reminded Sarah Thompson, who was still mid-rant, staring blankly. That was the brand-new, latest model trifold phone she'd bought just a few days ago. It cost nearly $30,000 plus. Just like that? In that instant, Olivia felt like she was about to snap. Sarah Thompson, still fuming, froze mid-tirade upon hearing this. She turned stiffly and saw Olivia's heartbroken, slightly wronged expression. "Olivia, I'm sorry, I lost my temper just now. It's all Jessica Smith's fault," Sarah Thompson said quickly, trying to placate her, feeling a pang of guilt. However, Olivia just looked at her with hurt eyes, saying nothing. Sarah Thompson felt awkward. She glanced at the phone, now shattered into pieces on the ground, gritted her teeth, and said, "Olivia, it's okay. I'll pay you back. I'll buy you a new one." Even as she said it, Sarah Thompson felt the sting. This phone cost nearly $30,000 plus. She barely had any money left as it was. Replacing Olivia's phone would completely wipe out her savings. She had been planning to budget carefully. After all, she was pregnant now with no source of income. If she spent all her money, she'd have nothing left. But now, she had no choice but to cough up the cash to replace Olivia's phone. It was all Jessica Smith's fault. Not only did she refuse to return her husband, but she deliberately provoked her, making her lose control and smash Olivia's phone. Thinking this, Sarah Thompson's hatred for Jessica Smith deepened. Okay. Hearing Sarah Thompson promise to replace the phone, Olivia pouted slightly, but reluctantly accepted. "It's all Jessica Smith's fault. That damn woman is just too much." Sarah Thompson fumed, growing angrier the more she thought about it. Coming here today to demand her husband back was perfectly justified, completely within her rights. But Jessica Smith had gone back on her word. It was unforgivable. Olivia bit her lip, hesitated for a moment, then tentatively suggested, "Sarah Thompson, maybe you should just give up. Jessica Smith is dead set on not giving Ethan Thompson back to you." "I know," Sarah Thompson said through gritted teeth, looking towards the manor. By now, she had completely given up hope. She knew that damn woman, Jessica Smith, had no intention of ever returning Ethan Thompson to her. And Ethan Thompson, he wasn't going to remarry her either. In that moment, the last shred of hope she clung to completely vanished. Since that cheating couple treated me like this, they won't get off easy either. I'm going to blast them all over social media. Let them face the wrath of the internet. Sarah Thompson spat out, her eyes filled with hatred. If looks could kill, Sarah Thompson would have gladly murdered Jessica Smith and Ethan Thompson, that cheating couple, right then and there. Sigh. I guess that's the only option now. Olivia sighed softly, a look of resignation on her face. Ethan Thompson stepped off the treadmill and sat down beside Jessica Smith. Who called you just now? Ethan Thompson had noticed someone calling Jessica Smith earlier and asked curiously. Who else? Your dear ex-wife. Jessica Smith pursed her lips, looking at him with exasperation. That woman, Sarah Thompson, was always after her husband. Like a persistent ghost, she just wouldn't leave them alone. It was incredibly annoying. Sarah Thompson? Ethan Thompson frowned, then asked, What did you two talk about? What else could we talk about? She said the 2 weeks were up and told me to give you back to her. Jessica Smith replied. And what did you say? Ethan Thompson wasn't surprised. Sarah Thompson always demanded her husband back whenever she contacted Jessica. He was used to it. What else could I say? Of course I refused. I worked so hard to get my hands on you. Why would I possibly give you back to her? Jessica Smith turned to Ethan Thompson, her expression serious. In this lifetime, no one is ever taking you away from me. You're mine. For this entire lifetime. Jessica Smith declared, scooting closer and wrapping her arms tightly around one of his, holding on as if afraid someone would snatch him away. Ethan Thompson chuckled helplessly, reaching out to ruffle her hair. Don't worry, I'm yours for life. I won't let anyone take me away either. That's more like it. Jessica Smith lifted her chin, a hint of playful pride in her expression, clearly satisfied with his answer. All right, let go now. I'm all sweaty. Ethan Thompson tried to pull his arm free. Jessica Smith's chest was rather well developed, and having his arms squeezed like that was quite uncomfortable. However, Jessica Smith wasn't having it. No, I want a hug, she insisted, holding his arm even tighter. Feeling the soft, plush sensation of being firmly squeezed, Ethan Thompson felt a wave of helplessness. Jessica Smith's figure was simply unfair. Those ample curves clamped around his arm, making it impossible to pull away. Okay, let go. I need to use the restroom, Ethan Thompson said, using his free hand to give her a gentle flick on the forehead, seeing how clingy she was being. Ouch, that hurt. Jessica Smith pouted, her big eyes looking watery and pitifully up at him. Still, she stubbornly refused to release his arm. That's what you get for not letting go. Ethan Thompson found the situation rather amusing. No way. You hit me, so you have to kiss me before I let you go to the bathroom. Otherwise, forget it. Jessica Smith pouted, issuing her proud threat. I really can't win with you. Ethan Thompson sighed in resignation, leaning down to give her rosy lips a light peck. However, just as he was about to pull back, Jessica Smith seized the opportunity, wrapping both arms around his neck and pressing her body against his. At the same time, her tongue boldly slipped into his mouth. Ethan Thompson's eyes widened. A quick peck? When did it turn into a deep kiss? He knew he wouldn't be getting away today unless he kissed this girl until she was thoroughly satisfied. Resigned, he wrapped his arms around Jessica Smith's soft body and began to respond to her kiss. Jessica Smith lay sprawled on the sofa like a boneless puddle, a look of utter contentment on her face. Little rascal, thought I couldn't handle you. Ethan Thompson stood before the sofa, looking down at her, humming smugly before turning to head to the restroom. Jessica Smith watched his retreating back, a dreamy and satisfied smile spreading across her face, seemingly still savoring the memory of their passionate kiss. At 4 p.m., Ethan Thompson finished his workout for the day. The two walked out of the fitness center together, Jessica Smith clinging to Ethan Thompson's arm, acting adorably dependent. Hubby, tonight I'll have the housekeeper make you some extra herbal supplements, Jessica Smith said with a smile. You work out so hard every day, you need to replenish your strength. Ethan Thompson gave her a strange look. Are you sure those are just for recovery? And not something to, boost things? Jessica Smith blushed slightly, but she stubbornly insisted. Of course they're for recovery. I'm just worried about you because you train so hard. Ethan Thompson rolled his eyes at her. Hey, you're right. You're just thirsty for my body. Admit it. Don't you accuse me. Jessica Smith retorted indignantly, pouting her lips. I'm clearly just concerned about you. I'm not after your body. You totally are. I am not. You are too. I am not. Are too. I am not. Like two squabbling kids, they bantered back and forth as they walked towards a nearby manor. Unbeknownst to them, at that very moment, not far behind them, Robert Louis was quietly watching their retreating figures. Watching the happy young couple, Robert Louis's eyes held a hint of reluctance. He glanced at the sunset over the western hills and sighed softly. Then, he started walking towards them. Just as the couple was about to step into the manor, he called out to them. "Miss, sir." Ethan Thompson and Jessica Smith turned around in unison to look at Robert Lewis. "Robert, what is it?" Jessica Smith dropped her playful expression, reverting to her well-behaved demeanor, and asked curiously, "Miss, could you come here a moment? I have something to tell you." Robert Lewis offered a kindly smile, his eyes, as he looked at Jessica Smith, full of affection. "Oh, okay." Jessica Smith nodded lightly. For some reason, she felt that Robert Lewis seemed a bit off today, but she couldn't quite put her finger on what was different. A gentle smile touched Robert Lewis's aged face. "Miss, I'm leaving." Jessica Smith was grown up now, and married, and she had found a man worthy of spending her life with. She had also fulfilled her grandfather's last wish. Seeing his miss so happy, he felt he had no more lingering worries. It truly was time for him to leave. "Leaving? Robert, where are you going?" Jessica Smith was taken aback, and then asked nervously. In her eyes, Robert Lewis was like a kind grandfatherly figure, an elder who had watched her grow up. After her grandfather passed away, he was the person closest to her, besides Ethan Thompson. But now, Robert Lewis was saying he was leaving, which felt incredibly sudden to her. Instantly, Jessica Smith's heart filled with reluctance to see him go. Robert Lewis looked at Jessica Smith, his gaze soft. "Miss, I'm going back to my hometown. The 2 weeks are up now. You fulfilled your grandfather's will. You've married the man you love, so I can rest easy now. Tomorrow, let's go take care of the necessary procedures, so you can smoothly inherit the estate. And then it will really be time for me to leave." "But Robert, I don't want you to go." A mist filmed Jessica Smith's eyes, and she looked like she was about to burst into tears. "Miss, I don't want to leave you either," Robert Lewis said with a kind smile, though his tone held a deep reluctance. "But I'm old now. It's time for me to go." "But Robert, you could stay here. I can take care of you in your old age," Jessica Smith said stubbornly, pressing her lips together. "Miss, your kindness means the world to me," Robert Lewis smiled gratified. "But I have family too. I'm old now. It's time I went back to be with them." The little girl he'd watched grow up was now offering to care for him in his old age. The sentiment alone was deeply satisfying. Hearing this, Jessica Smith suddenly realized. That's right, Robert Lewis had his hometown, his family. He was getting old. It really was time for him to go back and enjoy his later years surrounded by children and grandchildren. "Robert, if you ever run into any trouble in the future, you absolutely must call me," Jessica Smith said, still a little worried. "All right, if anything comes up, I'll definitely call my miss." Robert Lewis smiled resignedly, but inside, he felt a quiet sense of happiness. Ethan Thompson was resting on the sofa. He'd overdone it a bit with his workout today and was feeling quite tired. Before long, the housekeeper brought him a glass of juice. Ethan Thompson picked up the juice and had just taken a sip when he saw Jessica Smith walk in through the door. Unlike before, Jessica Smith now looked extremely downcast. She seemed like a completely different person from the playful, smiling Jessica of moments ago. Ethan Thompson couldn't help but be taken aback for a moment. He quickly put down his glass and went over to her. "What's wrong?" Ethan Thompson looked at her desolate expression, his heart aching for her. He couldn't help but ask worriedly. "Hubby," Jessica Smith looked up at him, pouting slightly, didn't say anything, just stepped forward and hugged him. Very, very tightly. Ethan Thompson gently stroked her head and asked softly, "Can you tell me what happened?" Jessica Smith mumbled against his chest. "Robert Lewis is leaving." "Leaving?" Ethan Thompson was stunned for a moment and couldn't help asking, "Where is he going?" At that moment, Ethan Thompson was surprised, but he also understood why Jessica Smith was so heartbroken. Since her grandfather passed away, Robert Lewis had been the only person truly close to her. It wasn't until Ethan Thompson came along that the loneliness left by her grandfather's absence began to fade. But now, Robert Lewis was leaving, and Jessica Smith suddenly felt that sense of loneliness again, like losing a family member. Robert Lewis is going back to his hometown. Jessica Smith lifted her head from his embrace, her large, tear-filled eyes gazing at him. "From now on, I'll only have you." Seeing her like this, Ethan Thompson's heart ached. He couldn't resist reaching out to gently caress her cheek. "It's okay. Robert Lewis is just going home." Ethan Thompson comforted her in a soft, gentle voice. "If you miss him in the future, we can go visit him, okay?" Jessica Smith nodded, then buried her head in his chest again. Ethan Thompson held her soft form, feeling a pang of reluctance himself. Although he hadn't interacted much with Robert Lewis, he knew that ever since he married Jessica Smith, Robert Lewis had treated him like family. The look in the old man's eyes held that same doting affection. The next day dawned clear and bright. After breakfast, Ethan, Jessica, and Robert headed out. The inheritance process wasn't complicated. Robert had prepared all the necessary documents in advance, so everything was settled by noon. From that moment on, Jessica officially inherited her grandfather's entire estate. She had truly become a super rich woman, a billionaire heiress. But Jessica didn't feel the joy of inheriting a fortune. Instead, she seemed rather downcast. Robert left in the afternoon. Before leaving, Jessica offered Robert a bank card containing $7.25 million, but Robert didn't accept it. Watching the car gradually disappear down the drive, Ethan and Jessica stood at the manor's entrance, their emotions complex. Only when the car completely vanished at the end of the road did Jessica reluctantly tear her gaze away. She turned to Ethan, silent, took a step forward, and gently hugged him as if he were her entire world. Ethan held her close, a bittersweet feeling in his own heart. Before departing, Robert had said only one thing to him: treat Jessica well and make sure she's happy. Only after receiving Ethan's firm assurance did the old man finally leave, relieved. All right, come on, let's go inside too. After a long moment, Ethan gently released Jessica and spoke softly. Jessica looked up at him, still looking a bit down. Then, Ethan took her hand and led her into the manor. For the first few days after Robert left, Jessica remained subdued, lacking enthusiasm for anything. She didn't even try to seduce Ethan into making a baby at night anymore. Nor did she ask the housekeeper to brew those kidney-strengthening herbal supplements for him during the day. However, Ethan noticed that she had become significantly clingier, wanting to be by his side no matter what he was doing. It wasn't until the fourth day that Jessica gradually returned to her usual bubbly self. She'd come to terms with it. After all, Robert wasn't dead, and she could visit the old man later. That same day, Jessica started having the herbal supplements brewed for Ethan again. She wanted to try for a baby again. Ethan's ordeal began anew, but seeing the smile back on Jessica's face lifted Ethan's spirits too. So naturally, he didn't refuse her advances and did his best to satisfy the girl. That night, Ethan showed Jessica the true meaning of legendary stamina. Ethan's terrifying prowess completely conquered Jessica. Afterwards, both were utterly exhausted. Jessica lay in Ethan's arms, looking extremely content. "Hubby, I love you." Ethan caressed her smooth, pale back, a gentle smile on his face. "I love you too." Soon, the young couple fell sound asleep in each other's arms. The next day, the sky was overcast and a light rain drizzled down. In the fitness center, Ethan and Jessica were cuddling playfully. Ethan wanted to work out, but Jessica wouldn't let him, insisting on pulling him close for kisses. Ethan playfully resisted with all his might. They tussled on the sofa until Ethan, resorting to unfair tactics, used a sneaky move, tickling Jessica's armpits, to finally subdue her. You jerk! How could you tickle me?" Jessica lay on the sofa, her head pillowed on Ethan's lap, pouting at the cheating Ethan, looking utterly unconvinced. "You bit me just now. How come you're not mentioning that?" Ethan felt helpless. He wondered if this girl was part dog, leaving a bite mark on his arm. "I don't care, apologize to me," Jessica huffed, looking quite puffed up with indignation. "In your dreams. You bit me. Why don't you apologize to me?" Ethan wasn't about to apologize. It was clearly the girl who'd played dirty and bitten him first, and now she wanted him to apologize? Completely unreasonable. "Are you going to apologize or not? If you don't, I'll bite you." Jessica bared her teeth playfully, revealing 2 small canine teeth, threatening him fiercely. I'll never yield to evil forces." Ethan scoffed, utterly unafraid. "You asked for it. I'm going to bite you." Jessica sat up, lunged at Ethan, tackling him, and opened her mouth to bite. Ethan's eyes widened, and he quickly raised a hand to block her. Just as they were fooling around, the ringtone sounded from the iPhone in Jessica's pocket. "I'll let you off this time." Jessica got up, granting Ethan a temporary reprieve, and pulled her iPhone from her pocket to check the caller ID. She saw it was a call from Laura. As soon as Jessica answered, Laura's anxious voice came through. "Jessica, there's trouble. Check social media, quickly. That crazy woman Sarah posted about you guys, and she even paid to boost it." "What?" Jessica was shocked, immediately realizing Sarah must be resorting to desperate measures. "No time to explain. I forwarded the videos to you. See for yourself." Laura hung up. Jessica immediately opened TikTok and, sure enough, saw several videos Laura had forwarded. "What's wrong?" By now, Ethan sensed something was amiss, sat up straight, and leaned closer. Sarah posted about us on social media. Look, Jessica held the iPhone screen in front of him. As Ethan watched the videos, his expression grew increasingly serious. These videos were gaining significant traction. Each had thousands of shares, nearly 10,000 comments, and likely hundreds of thousands of views, maybe even more. In the videos, Sarah tearfully played the victim, accusing Jessica of breaking her word and Ethan of dumping her for someone new. She then pitifully played up her misery on camera, claiming she was pregnant, alone, broke, basically emphasizing how difficult her situation was. Let me see the comments. Ethan frowned and opened the comment section, wanting to see how people online were reacting. Soon, he saw some of the top-like comments. Whoa, this is wild. Lending your husband out for marriage? All I can say is, sister, you're something else. OMG, you can borrow husbands now? Hey sisters, anyone with a hot husband, lend him to me for marriage? The kind you don't return. Damn, serve her right. Lending her husband for money? I'd say you brought this on yourself, reaped what you sowed. Can't blame anyone else. Whoa, her husband totally scored. Divorces her. Immediately marries a socialite. Instant life upgrade. Living the dream, man. Guard against fire. Guard against thieves. Guard against BFFs. Sister, you gotta be smarter than that. Lending your husband to your BFF? What were you thinking? Damn, even TV dramas wouldn't dare write this plot. Lend husband to BFF, they end up falling for real, and bam, you get cheated on. What kind of insane move is that? These days, you really see all sorts of people. Lending husbands? You totally deserve this. Seeing the comments from people online, Ethan breathed a small sigh of relief. Most people were treating the whole thing as entertainment. They were mostly making jokes and sarcastic remarks, not criticizing Ethan and Jessica. In fact, Sarah, the one posting the tearful videos, was being ridiculed by many who said she deserved it. Only a very small minority felt Jessica and Ethan's actions were somewhat unethical and spoke up in Sarah's defense. You wait here. I need to make a few calls. After watching the video, Jessica stood up and left. As a socialite, she certainly had connections. After all, when her grandfather was alive, he'd introduced her to quite a few influential people. Even though her grandfather was gone now, those connections remained. Besides, as the true owner and controlling shareholder behind EverSafe Insurance Group, one of the country's top insurance companies, who wouldn't do her a favor? Before long, Jessica finished her calls and came back in. It's handled. Don't worry. She won't be able to stir up much trouble. Jessica sat down and said to Ethan, It doesn't bother me. I was just worried you'd be upset. Ethan shrugged nonchalantly, hands spread wide. Although Sarah had exposed the matter on social media, judging by the results, it seemed she'd shot herself in the foot. Sarah's intention was to post videos, tearfully complaining about her grievances, playing the victim to gain sympathy, and then denounce Jessica and Ethan as a cheating couple. She wanted the masses of netizens to stand up for her, join her in condemning the cheating couple, Ethan and Jessica, subject them to online harassment. But the result was the exact opposite. There were very few voices on social media condemning Ethan and Jessica. Instead, Sarah herself faced considerable ridicule and sarcasm. So, Ethan's mood wasn't affected. I'm fine too. I haven't seen anyone bashing me on social media. They're all criticizing Sarah. Jessica also looked unconcerned. She had already contacted a few people and asked them to help suppress the buzz around the incident. She estimated that in about 2 weeks, the whole thing would blow over. After a while longer, the netizens would forget about it, and no one would remember. Meanwhile, at Sunnybrook Estates, in the living room, Sarah and Olivia were sitting on the sofa, still monitoring the news on social media. What's wrong with these people? Why aren't they supporting me? Why are they criticizing me instead? Jessica and Ethan are clearly the ones in the wrong, so why are people defending them? Sarah frowned tightly, feeling more and more uneasy as she scrolled. She had posted those videos hoping netizens would help her denounce that cheating couple, Ethan and Jessica. But in the end, Ethan and Jessica were completely unaffected, while she was being laughed at like a brat by many people. This made her feel both ashamed and angry, as if everyone was targeting her. Olivia, don't panic just yet. Let these videos circulate a bit longer. Olivia also sensed something was off, but tried to soothe her. Olivia, how can I not panic? I spent all my money boosting these posts. If Ethan and Jessica don't get slammed online, wasn't my money wasted? Sarah was becoming frantic. She didn't have much savings to begin with, and after paying Olivia back for the iPhone, she was completely broke. The money for boosting the post had come from her parents. Now, she had even fired her housekeeper. You'd say she had hit rock bottom, and she had done all this just to make that cheating couple, Ethan and Jessica, pay the price. But now, the situation was unfolding in the exact opposite way she had imagined. How could she not be anxious? Olivia patted her shoulder comfortingly. Sarah, maybe you didn't play the victim convincingly enough. That might be why people aren't supporting you. Olivia paused, thought for a moment, then suggested, how about this? Let's prepare, and tonight we'll go live on TikTok. We can play the victim while bad-mouthing Ethan and Jessica, sling some mud at them. Maybe people will even send you donations. You might even make some good money. Really? Hearing this, Sarah's eyes lit up, instantly seeing a glimmer of hope. If playing the victim on a TikTok livestream could get that cheating couple harassed online, that would be great. And if she could make money too, that would be icing on the cake. After all, she was completely broke now. So at 8 p.m., after careful preparation, Sarah and Olivia planned to start their pity party TikTok live. However, when Sarah opened her account, she suddenly discovered it had been banned by the platform. The videos she had previously posted had also been taken down. What's going on? Sarah's eyes widened. She froze, a sense of foreboding creeping in her heart. Sarah, bad news. The videos we posted on other platforms have also been taken down, and those accounts are banned too. Olivia had noticed something was wrong as well. They hadn't just posted on one platform. They had simultaneously published videos on several video platforms and paid to boost them all. But now, all the videos were removed and the accounts were banned. Did someone report us? Sarah wondered aloud, starting to panic. Videos taken down, accounts banned. This meant everything they had done before was for nothing. The money spent on boosting the posts had gone down the drain. Probably not. It seems more likely they were intentionally taken down and banned by the platform officials. Olivia shook her head, disagreeing with Sarah's idea. Why would the platforms ban my account? Sarah burst out, frustrated. Olivia fell into thought. Then her eyes suddenly lit up. She asked uncertainly, Sarah, do you think? Could it be Jessica? Jessica? Sarah frowned, considering the possibility. Olivia analyzed. Sarah, I think it must be Jessica. She has the connections. She probably found out about this and had someone suppress the attention. It must be her. Sarah thought for a moment. Only Jessica had the power to make the buzz die down like that. Instantly, she started grinding her teeth in anger. She was filled with so much hate. She had gone to so much trouble to make those videos and spent a fortune boosting them. And now it was all for nothing. That cheating couple was perfectly fine, while she was the one getting relentlessly mocked on social media. It felt like she had shot herself in the foot. It was all Jessica's fault. Sarah, how about this? Olivia mused after a moment, coming up with a solution. While there's still some buzz, we can make new accounts and go live. Surely some people are still following this. Sarah felt reluctant, but after thinking it over, she couldn't come up with a better plan, so she resignedly nodded. Okay. Then, Sarah created a new account, chose the video platform with the most activity surrounding the topic, and started a live stream. After half an hour, the live stream finally attracted over 100 viewers. Sarah began her tearful performance, recounting her hardships and denouncing Ethan and Jessica, the cheating couple. Gradually, through netizens' sharing and the passage of time, the live stream started gaining traction. Eventually, the number of viewers in the live stream reached over 1,000.